The crystal champagne flute trembled in my hand as my mother-in-law Helen raised her glass for what felt like the 100th toast of the evening. The Montgomery family never did anything small, especially celebrations. To our dearest Denise, Helen's voice rang across their sprawling living room, whose promotion to senior financial controller proves that when one of us succeeds, the whole family succeeds. I forced a smile, catching my best friend Olive's knowing eye roll from across the room. She'd been warning me for years about how suffocating the Montgomerys could be, but I'd always defended them. After all, what family wouldn't be proud of their daughter-in-law landing a 6-figure position at one of the city's top firms? My husband Damien squeezed my shoulder. You deserve this, honey. We're all so proud. The party was extravagant. Catered appetizers, premium champagne, even a custom cake with "Congratulations, Denise" written in perfect gold script. I should have felt on top of the world, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way Helen kept emphasizing family success, or how Damien's sister Natalia's smile never quite reached her eyes. Speech, Kenneth, my father-in-law called out. Let's hear from the woman of the hour. I smoothed my black cocktail dress and stood. I'm not great at speeches, but thank you all for this incredible party. I'm touched by your support and... Oh, darling, Helen interrupted. You're being modest. Tell everyone about the wonderful opportunities this means for our family's future. Before I could respond, a sharp cry pierced the air. Everyone turned toward the sound. Sorry, Natalia jumped up. That's just the baby monitor. Must have knocked it on while setting up. I'll grab it. I've got it, I said quickly, spotting the small device on the side table. I'm headed to the powder room anyway. I slipped the monitor into my purse, intending to return it later. As I made my way down the hallway, Olive caught up with me. You okay? You seem tense. Just overwhelmed. Helen's being... Helen? Olive snorted. You mean overbearing and controlling? I saw her reorganizing your desk in your home office last week when you were in the kitchen. She means well, I said automatically, though my stomach twisted. She just wants to be involved. There's involved, and then there's whatever this is. Olive gestured around at the party. Did you even want this celebration? Before I could answer, Natalia appeared. Denise, Mum needs you in the kitchen. Something about the cake serving. In the kitchen, Helen and Aunt Jasmine were huddled near the sink, speaking in hushed tones. They straightened up when I entered. There you are! Helen beamed. We were just saying how rewarding it is to support your career for everyone's sake. Something in her tone made me pause. The way Jasmine wouldn't meet my eyes. The slight emphasis on everyone's. What do you mean by that? Oh, you know, Helen waved dismissively. Family takes care of family. Now, about the cake. Later, as guests began filtering out, I helped clear glasses from the living room. My purse sat forgotten on a chair, the baby monitor inside still switched on. As I reached for it, voices drifted through the speaker, coming from Kenneth's study upstairs. Too focused on her career to notice. I froze, Helen's voice crystal clear through the device. Diverting her paychecks to our family fund. My heart stopped. That was Damien's voice. My husband's voice. She trusts me completely, he continued, laughing. Signs whatever I put in front of her. The crystal glass in my hand nearly slipped. I caught it, my knuckles white against the stem. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of thinking I'd finally found a family who supported my ambitions, who celebrated my success. Denise? Olive's voice made me jump. You look like you've seen a ghost. I clicked off the monitor and slipped it into my pocket, plastering on a smile that felt like it might crack my face. Just tired. Big day. But as I watched Damien laugh with his parents across the room, something cold and hard settled in my chest. They thought I was too focused on my career to notice? Well, they were about to learn exactly how focused I could be. I hugged Olive goodbye, already planning my next move. Thanks for coming. I have a feeling I'm going to need your legal expertise soon. She raised an eyebrow, but I just smiled. The party might be ending, but something else was just beginning. I waited until Damien's breathing deepened into sleep before slipping out of bed. The baby monitor felt heavy in my pocket as I crept downstairs to the kitchen. Helen had insisted we stay the night after the party, claiming we'd had too much champagne to drive. Now I wondered if there was another reason. My hand shook as I pulled out the device. Part of me hoped I'd imagined what I'd heard earlier, that it was just party stress playing tricks on my mind. I pressed play on the recorded conversation. She's been so distracted with this promotion, Helen's voice crackled through the speaker. It's perfect timing, really. The new salary bump will help cover Kenneth's debts, Damien replied. And that investment property Natalia's been eyeing. Speaking of properties, Kenneth's gruff voice joined in. That joint account paperwork you had her sign last month? Brilliant move, son! My stomach lurched. Last month's paperwork. Damien had caught me rushing between meetings, thrust a stack of documents in my face. Just some account updates, honey. You know how the bank is with their endless forms. How much have we managed to divert so far? Natalia asked. Nearly 200,000, Helen said proudly. Our little financial controller never even noticed, too busy climbing the corporate ladder. The mug I was holding slipped from my fingers, clattering into the sink. I barely caught it before it could shatter and wake everyone. What are you doing up? I spun around to find Jasmine in the doorway, wrapped in a floral robe. I clicked off the monitor and slipped it behind the coffee maker. Couldn't sleep. Too much excitement, I guess. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Quite a celebration Helen threw you. She's always been passionate about family affairs. Seems like the whole family is passionate about affairs, I muttered before I could stop myself. Jasmine's expression flickered. What do you mean by that? Nothing, just tired. I forced a yawn. Think I'll head back up. Denise? She caught my arm as I passed. Family can be complicated. Sometimes what looks like betrayal is just protection. I pulled away, my skin crawling. Did she know? Was she part of it too? Back in the guest room, I lay rigid beside Damien, my mind racing. $200,000. All those times he'd insisted on handling our finances because I was too busy. The joint accounts I'd barely looked at. The investment discussions I'd missed because of work meetings. My phone buzzed with a text from Olive. You okay? You seemed off at the party. Call me. I typed back, need your help. But not here. Meet tomorrow. Bring your lawyer brain. The response was immediate. My office, 9 a.m, what's going on? Before I could reply, Damien stirred. Babe? Why are you up? Just checking work emails, I lied smoothly. Big presentation next week. He chuckled, pulling me close. Always working. That's my girl. His kiss on my temple felt like acid. You know, Mum was thinking we should have a family meeting tomorrow about the promotion and future planning. Future planning? You know, investments, shared goals, family stuff. His hand rubbed my back in what used to feel comforting. Now it made my skin crawl. There's this opportunity Kenneth heard about. Sounds great. I forced myself to sound eager. But I have meetings all day tomorrow. Rain check. The family's counting on you being there, he pressed. Can't you reschedule? I sat up, finally trusting myself to look at him in the dim light. My husband of 6 years. The man I'd trusted with everything. Actually, you're right. Family should come first. I'll move some things around. His relief was palpable. That's my girl. Mum will be so pleased. I lay back down, letting him pull me against his chest while my mind raced. Let them have their family meeting. Let them think I was still their naive, career-obsessed cash cow. But first, I needed proof. As Damien's breathing evened out again, I carefully reached for my phone. To Olive. Change of plans. Need you to look into something first. How fast can you get bank records? Her reply came seconds later. How far back? I thought about Helen's smug voice. $200,000, 6 years of lies. All of it, I typed back. Every last penny. Tomorrow, they'd see the dutiful daughter-in-law they expected. But today, I was going to become the financial controller they never bargained for. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to plan. They thought I was too focused on my career to notice. They were about to learn that attention to detail was exactly what I did best. You've got to be kidding me. Brian pushed his glasses up his nose, staring at the stack of bank statements spread across his desk. They've been siphoning money through 7 different accounts. I'd called in every favour I had to get Brian, my old college friend and now forensic accountant, to see me on such short notice. His downtown office felt safer than meeting at Olive's law firm, where Natalia's best friend worked as a paralegal. Look at this pattern, he pointed to a series of transactions. Every time you got a bonus or raise, there's a matching transfer to this account in Helen's name. They didn't even try to hide it well. They didn't think they had to, I said, my voice tight. Show me everything. Brian pulled up a digital spreadsheet. Regular transfers to Kenneth's account, labelled as household expenses, way more than your actual bills. Investment accounts in Damien's name that you supposedly authorised. Even a vacation property down payment. The beach house, my hands clenched, the one Helen said was a family inheritance. Bought with your money 3 months ago. He hesitated. There's more. Someone's been taking out loans in your name. The room spun. What? Through Jasmine's credit union. 3 so far, all with your electronic signature. A knock at the door made us both jump. Olive slipped in, looking grim. Sorry, I'm late. Had to dodge Natalia in the courthouse lobby. She took in my face. What did I miss? Show her, I said to Brian. While he walked Olive through the evidence, I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Damien. 3 from Helen. A text from Natalia. Where are you? Everyone's waiting. The family meeting. I'd forgotten all about it. They're going to notice something's wrong soon, Olive warned, looking up from the documents. We need to move fast. Already on it. Brian turned his laptop around. I've flagged suspicious transactions, documented the fraud patterns, and started tracing where the money went. But Denise, this is serious criminal stuff. We should contact the authorities. My phone buzzed again. Damien. Honey, Mum's really upset. Please come home. We need to discuss something important. Not yet, I said. I need to know exactly what they're planning first. At least let me file an emergency injunction, Olive pleaded. Freeze the accounts before they can move more money. If we do that, they'll know I'm onto them. I need them to think I'm still in the dark. I stood up, straightening my blazer. Besides, I have a family meeting to attend. Denise! Olive's voice was worried. Trust me. I gathered my purse. Brian, how fast can you get me a complete forensic report? Give me 48 hours, but be careful. People who steal from family can be dangerous when cornered. I thought about Helen's calculating smile, Damien's practiced lies, the way they'd all laughed about deceiving me. I'm counting on it. The drive home gave me time to compose myself. I pulled into the driveway just as Natalia stormed out the front door. Finally! Where have you been? Mum's been calling for hours. Sorry, work emergency. I followed her inside where the family sat around the dining room table. Helen's face was tear-stained. Kenneth looked grave, and Damien jumped up to hug me. Baby, thank God. We've been so worried. What's going on? I asked, letting just the right amount of concern colour my voice. Helen dabbed her eyes. It's your father-in-law. The doctors found something. The treatments. We need your help, Denise. I watched Kenneth bow his head, playing his part perfectly. Watched Damien squeeze my hand, his wedding ring suddenly feeling like a brand on my skin. Of course, I said softly. Whatever the family needs. How much are we talking about? The specialist wants $50,000 up front, Helen said. I know it's a lot, but with your new promotion, we've all sacrificed so much for each other, Damien added. This is what family does. I thought about Brian's spreadsheet, about the beach house bought with my stolen money, about the loans taken out in my name. You're right, I said, meeting Helen's eyes. Family sacrifices for each other. Give me until tomorrow to arrange the transfer. I want to do this right. The relief in the room was palpable. Helen hugged me, her perfume suffocating. We knew we could count on you, dear. My phone vibrated. A text from Brian. Found something big. Natalia's been skimming extra. They don't know. I hugged Helen back, smiling over her shoulder at my husband. After all, I said, what's family for? Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly what family was for. But tonight, I had some transfers of my own to arrange. You're telling me Natalia's been running her own scam? I stared at Brian's laptop screen in disbelief. We were meeting in a quiet coffee shop this time, far from both our offices. Look at these transactions. He pointed to a series of transfers. Every time money went into the family fund, a portion disappeared into an offshore account, one that only Natalia can access. How much? Nearly 50,000. She's been stealing from the people stealing from you, I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Honor among thieves? There's more, Brian lowered his voice. That medical emergency they're using to pressure you? Kenneth's been to exactly one doctor this year for a routine physical. My phone lit up with Damien's face. I declined the call, adding it to the growing list of ignored messages. He'd been extra attentive since yesterday's family meeting, bringing me breakfast in bed, offering to massage my shoulders while I arranged the transfer. Have you signed anything recently? Brian asked. Any documents at all? No. My voice trailed off as I remembered. Wait, last night, Damien asked me to sign a birthday card for his cousin. Said he was in a rush to mail it. Brian's face darkened. Show me. I pulled up a photo I'd taken of the envelope before signing. Brian examined it, then swore under his breath. This isn't a card envelope. It's sized for legal documents. They're still trying to get your signature on something. My phone buzzed again. Helen this time. Darling, we need to finalize everything today. Kenneth's appointment is tomorrow morning. They're getting desperate, I said. Good. Denise, Brian closed his laptop. These people aren't just thieves. They're professional con artists. You need to be careful. I am being careful. That's why I'm meeting Olive at the bank in an hour to... Denise? My blood froze. Natalia stood by our table, designer handbag clutched tight. I thought you were homesick. That's what Damien told Mum. I glanced at Brian's laptop, now thankfully closed. Just getting some fresh air and coffee with an old friend. Her eyes narrowed at Brian. Does Damien know you're meeting strange men for coffee? Brian's an accountant, I said smoothly, helping me understand some tax implications of my promotion. Speaking of which, how's that property investment you were looking at? Something flickered in her expression. What property? The one you mentioned at my party. Unless... I widened my eyes innocently. Was that supposed to be a surprise? I should go. She backed away, already pulling out her phone. Feel better, Denise? The moment she left, I grabbed my things. She's calling them right now. Go, Brian said. I'll get everything to Olive. Just watch your back. I made it to the bank just as Olive arrived, looking worried. Natalia called Damien. He's on his way here. Perfect. I straightened my jacket. Let's do this fast. Inside, I approached the manager's desk with my most professional smile. Hi, I need to discuss some irregularities with my accounts. 20 minutes later, Damien burst in, Helen and Kenneth right behind him. They froze when they saw Olive in her lawyer suit, documents spread across the manager's desk. Honey? Damien's voice wavered. What's going on? Just reviewing some interesting transactions. I kept my voice light. Care to explain why my salary's been going to accounts I never authorized? Denise. Helen stepped forward, tears already forming. You don't understand. Kenneth's condition is non-existent. I slid Brian's report across the desk. Just like the family fund, just like your beach house inheritance. Whatever you think you found, Kenneth started, but Olive cut him off. My client has comprehensive documentation of systematic fraud, unauthorized accounts, and forged signatures. She's prepared to press charges unless certain conditions are met. Damien reached for my hand. I pulled away. Baby, please. We can explain everything. Explain what? I met his eyes. How you've stolen over $200,000 from me. How you forged my signature, or maybe... I turned to Natalia, who had just rushed in. How about you explain your private offshore account? The colour drained from her face. Helen whirled on her daughter. What is she talking about? I don't. Natalia's voice cracked. Mum, she's lying. Actually, Olive interjected, we have proof of everything, including the loans taken out in Denise's name through Aunt Jasmine's credit union. The manager cleared his throat. Should I contact the authorities? That depends. I stood up, facing my husband and his family. Are you ready to talk about paying everything back? Or should we let the police handle this family emergency? The silence that followed was deafening. In it, I could hear everything crumbling. My marriage, their schemes, the web of lies they'd spun so carefully. And honestly, the sound was beautiful. The loans were Helen's idea. Jasmine's voice crackled through my phone speaker. After the bank confrontation, she'd called me in a panic. She said you'd never notice that Damien had everything under control. I sat in Olive's office, speakerphone on, recording everything. And you just went along with it. They promised me a cut, said it was just temporary, that once Kenneth's investments paid off. She broke down sobbing. Helen's my sister. I trusted her. Like I trusted my husband? My voice could have frozen hell. How many other loans are there, Jasmine? Silence. Jasmine? 2 more, she whispered. I approved last week. Helen said it was urgent. Olive scribbled something on her legal pad and slid it across the desk. She's lying. Bank shows 4 new loans. I want copies of everything, I said into the phone, in every document, every email, every text, or you'll be the first one I press charges against. You can't! I'll lose my job at the credit union. Should have thought about that before committing fraud. After she hung up, Olive leaned back. That's 3 family members turning on each other. Helen's empire is crumbling. Speaking of Helen, I pulled up my messages. Dozens from her, each more desperate than the last. The latest caught my eye. We need to talk. Alone. Come to the house tonight. Don't, Olive warned. It's a trap. Of course it is. I grabbed my coat. That's why you're coming with me. The drive to Helen's house was tense. When we pulled up, I noticed Damien's car in the driveway. Remember, Olive said, don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything and keep recording. Helen opened the door before we could knock. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide her red-rimmed eyes. Denise, thank God. Who's this? My lawyer, I pushed past her. Where's Damien? Here. He emerged from Kenneth's study, looking haggard. Baby, please. Can we talk privately? Nothing's private anymore. I entered the study, where Kenneth sat slumped at his desk. Where's Natalia? Gone, Helen spat. Took off after your little bank ambush. Won't answer her phone. Probably busy moving money from her offshore account. Kenneth's head snapped up. What offshore account? The one she's been filling with money stolen from your stolen money. I pulled out Brian's report. Want to see the transactions? This is ridiculous. Helen stepped forward. We're family. We can work this out without lawyers and accusations. Family? I laughed. Is that what you call people you steal from? We didn't steal, Damien protested. We were investing, building a future. With my money? Without my knowledge? You were too busy with your career to handle the finances properly, Helen said. We were protecting you. By forging my signature? By taking out fraudulent loans? That was, Helen faltered. We needed emergency funds. For what? Kenneth's fake medical condition? The beach house? Or Natalia's shopping sprees? Silence fell. Kenneth looked at his wife. What beach house? Not now, dear. Helen's voice sharpened. Denise, be reasonable. If you press charges, it'll ruin everyone, including yourself. Think of the scandal, your career. My career. I stepped closer. The one you said made me too busy to notice you robbing me blind. That career. Please, Damien reached for me. We can fix this. Together. I love you. I pulled away. You love my paycheck. Enough! Helen slammed her hand on the desk. What do you want? Money? We'll pay you back. Just stop this madness. Oh, you'll pay me back. I nodded to Olive, who pulled out a document. Every penny plus interest, and you'll sign confessions detailing exactly what you did. Or what? Helen's eyes narrowed. Or I send this evidence to the police, the credit union board, and your country club committee. How's that for family loyalty? Kenneth grabbed the document, scanning it. Helen, how much did you actually take? Don't sign anything, she snapped, but he was already reading, his face growing paler. 200,000? The beach house? Natalia's account? He looked up at his wife. What have you done? What? I had to, Helen screamed. To keep this family afloat, to give our children the life they deserve. Children like Natalia, who stole from you too? I pulled out my phone, showing them the transfer records. Face it, Helen. Your perfect family is a house of cards, and it's falling down. Damien sank into a chair, head in his hands. Dad's medical emergency. Was that even real? Ask your mother, I said coldly. She seems to be the expert on family emergencies. The study door burst open. Natalia stood there, mascara streaked down her face. Mum, the bank just called. They're freezing all our accounts. I smiled. Now, that's what I call a family emergency. The foreclosure notice is real this time. Kenneth slapped a stack of papers onto the dining room table. 3 days had passed since the bank confrontation, and Helen had summoned everyone for another emergency family meeting. No more lies, Helen. We're losing the house. That's impossible. Helen's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her coffee cup. What about the investment returns you promised? There were no returns, Kenneth's voice cracked. I lost everything in the market crash. The money we took from Denise was keeping us afloat. I sat silently, watching their world unravel. Olive had advised against attending this meeting, but I needed to see this. We still have the beach house, Natalia suggested weakly. The beach house we bought with stolen money? Damien snapped. Great plan, sis. Maybe we can sell it to pay for our legal defence. Don't you dare blame me, Natalia shot back. At least I didn't steal from my own wife. No, you just stole from all of us. Helen's voice dripped venom. Your own family. Enough. Kenneth slammed his hand down. Denise, please. There must be something we can work out. I pulled out a manila envelope. Funny you should mention that. What's that? Helen's eyes narrowed. Everything. I spread the contents across the table. Bank statements, transfer records, loan documents, forged signatures, even emails discussing your little schemes. Damien reached for the papers, but I pulled them back. The originals are with my lawyer and the police. You called the police? Helen went pale. Not yet, but I will, unless you all sign these. I produced another set of documents. Full confession, complete repayment plan, and a restraining order keeping you away from me and my finances. This is extortion, Helen hissed. No, this is karma. I met her eyes. You have 1 hour to decide. Sign or I press charges. We don't have the money to pay you back, Natalia wailed. The beach house sells first, I said coldly. Then Helen's precious jewellery collection, Kenneth's golf club membership, your designer wardrobe, Natalia, everything. And what about me? Damien's voice was quiet. Where do I fit in your revenge plan? I finally looked at my husband, the man I'd trusted, the man I'd loved. Divorce papers are in there too. You get nothing. Baby, please, don't baby me. I stood up. You watched them steal from me for years. You helped them do it. What kind of husband does that? The kind raised by wolves. Jasmine's voice cut through the room. She stood in the doorway, clutching her own stack of papers. I brought what you asked for, Denise. Every loan document, every email, even the ones Helen doesn't know about. Jasmine? Helen jumped up. What are you doing? Saving myself. Jasmine dropped the papers on the table. The credit union's investigating. I'm not going down for your schemes anymore. The room erupted into chaos. Helen screamed at Jasmine. Natalia burst into tears. Kenneth stared at the foreclosure notice like it might change if he looked hard enough. 1 hour, I repeated, heading for the door. Sign everything, or I call the police. Wait! Damien followed me onto the porch. What happened to us? To our love? Love? I turned to face him. Love doesn't steal $200,000. Love doesn't forge signatures. Love doesn't laugh about deceiving their partner. I can change. You can sign the papers. I stepped back. That's all you can do now. Back in my car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. My phone buzzed. Olive checking in. They're turning on each other, I texted. Just like you predicted. Coming over with wine, she replied. You'll need it when the signatures start rolling in. I looked back at the house. Through the window, I could see Helen gesturing wildly, Jasmine shouting back, Natalia sobbing into her hands. The perfect family shattering like glass. My phone buzzed again. Brian, this time. Bank confirms accounts frozen. They're trapped. One last text came through from Damien. I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to make my family happy. I typed back 4 words. You succeeded. They're thrilled. Then I blocked his number, started my car, and drove away from the house I'd once thought would be my forever home. They had 1 hour to sign their confessions, to admit their crimes, to face the consequences of their actions. And if they didn't, well, I had a police detective's number ready to dial, and 6 years of evidence to share. Let them try to talk their way out of that family emergency. 58 minutes. That's how long it took for my phone to ring. They're signing, Jasmine's voice trembled. But Helen, she's not herself. You need to come back. I glanced at Olive, who was already grabbing her keys. Don't let them leave. Don't let them move any papers. When we pulled up to the house, a police car sat in the driveway. I didn't call them. I said, confused. Kenneth did. Jasmine met us at the door. After Helen tried to burn the evidence, inside, the dining room had become a war zone. Papers scattered everywhere, Helen restrained in a chair by a female officer, mascara streaking down her face. Kenneth sat with his head in his hands, while another officer took his statement. "You ungrateful bitch," Helen screamed when she saw me. "After everything we did for you." "Mrs. Montgomery," the officer warned, "please stay calm." "She destroyed our family," Helen thrashed in the chair. "We gave her everything." "You gave her nothing." Jasmine stepped forward. "You took everything." Natalia huddled in a corner, frantically typing on her phone. The male officer noticed. "Miss, please surrender your device. We have reason to believe you're attempting to move funds." "Too late." Brian appeared in the doorway, laptop in hand. "The offshore account's already frozen. Interpol's involved now." "Interpol?" Natalia's phone clattered to the floor. "Mum, you said nobody would find out. Nobody was supposed to." Helen's voice cracked. "Denise was supposed to be too busy, too trusting, too—" "Stupid," I finished for her. "Sorry to disappoint." Damien stood by the fireplace, staring at the half-burned papers the officers had salvaged. "Dad, did you know about all of it?" Kenneth looked up, suddenly aged a decade. "I knew about the initial transfers, not the loans, not Natalia's account, not—" He gestured helplessly at the chaos around us. "Sign the confessions." Olive placed fresh copies on the table. "It's your last chance to avoid criminal charges." "You can't prove anything," Helen spat. "It's our word against—" "Actually," the female officer interrupted, "with these documents and recorded conversations, we can prove quite a lot." One by one they signed. Kenneth first, hand shaking. Natalia next, tears splashing the paper. Jasmine had already signed her statement at the credit union. Damien hesitated, pen hovering. "Think carefully," I told him. "Your next signature is either on that confession or on arrest papers." "I really did love you," he whispered, signing. "No," I replied. "You really didn't." Helen remained defiant. "I won't sign anything. This ungrateful girl comes into our family, takes my son, focuses on her career instead of giving us grandchildren, and now, Mrs. Montgomery," the male officer stepped forward, "we have enough evidence to arrest you right now for fraud, theft, and conspiracy. Your choice." She signed. "The beach house sells first," I stated flatly. "Then everything else. Every penny paid back." "Where are we supposed to live?" Natalia whimpered. "Should have thought about that before stealing from your own family fund," Jasmine remarked. The officers began gathering evidence, taking statements. I watched as the perfect family facade crumbled completely. "I've contacted the credit union board," Brian told me quietly. "They're pressing separate charges against Helen and Jasmine." "The country club committee wants a statement," Olive added. "Apparently, Helen's been running similar schemes there." "Let them handle it." I turned away from the scene. "I'm done here." "Denise, wait!" Damien called after me. "What about us, our home, our marriage?" I faced my husband one last time. "Our marriage died the first time you forged my signature. Our home was built on lies. And us." I pulled off my wedding ring. "There is no us. There never really was." "But I can change. We can start over." "No, Damien, you can start over in a smaller house, with a regular job, without access to my money." I dropped the ring on the table. "Consider it a divorce gift." Helen started screaming again as I walked out. Natalia was crying about prison. Kenneth was asking about lawyers. But for the first time in days, I felt at peace. Olive followed me to the car. "You okay?" "No," I admitted, "but I will be." My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Brian. Final tally, $238,456 stolen. All accounts frozen. Recovery process starting tomorrow. Want to get drunk and burn wedding photos? Olive offered. I started the car, watching in the rearview mirror as the officers led Helen out in handcuffs. God, yes. The perfect family was perfect no more. But maybe that was exactly how it should be. Final sale price, $800,000. The realtor handed me the beach house closing documents. Quite a profit, considering the market. Karma's profitable these days, Olive remarked beside me. We watched the new owners drive away, their moving truck following close behind. My phone buzzed. A news alert about Helen's sentencing. 8 years for fraud and conspiracy. Kenneth got 5, with possibility of early release. Natalia took a plea deal, trading information about other family schemes for a lighter sentence. Jasmine lost her job but avoided jail by cooperating fully. And Damien? He signed the divorce papers without contest, disappeared to another state, and last I heard, was working as a bank teller. Irony's funny that way. Ms. Montgomery? The bank manager approached with another stack of papers. The funds have been transferred to the restitution account. Would you like to review the distribution schedule? Send it to my lawyer. I nodded toward Olive. She'll handle the details. Walking out of the bank, I felt lighter. The money was back where it belonged, with interest. The perfect family's perfect facade had crumbled completely. Justice, as they say, had been served. Ready for your speech? Olive asked as we drove to my office. I smoothed my blazer. As ready as I'll ever be. The conference room was packed. Every financial controller and executive in the company waited to hear about my new fraud prevention initiative. Brian stood at the back, giving me a thumbs up. Thank you all for coming, I began. Today, we're launching a program I wish had existed years ago. One that might have saved me from losing $200,000 to my own family. The room went silent. We're calling it the Trust But Verify Protocol, because sometimes the people closest to us are the ones we should trust the least. Phones came out recording. This wasn't just another corporate presentation. This was a warning, a lesson, a survival guide. My husband forged my signature. My mother-in-law orchestrated elaborate schemes. My sister-in-law stole from the stolen money. And I'm here to make sure it never happens to anyone else. After the presentation, my boss pulled me aside. The board wants to fast-track you to CFO. Your story, this initiative, it's exactly what the company needs. I thought about Helen's words at my promotion party, about family success, about how desperately she'd wanted to control my career, my money, my life. I accept, I said, but I have one condition. Name it. The Trust But Verify protocol goes company-wide, no exceptions. That evening, cleaning out my home office, I found an unmarked envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a single sheet of expensive stationery. Helen's perfect handwriting instantly recognizable. You think you've won. You think you've destroyed us. But family is forever, dear. And revenge works both ways. Sleep well. I should have been scared, should have called the police. Instead, I laughed. The doorbell rang. Olive stood there with wine and takeout. Behind her, Brian juggled his laptop and a stack of files. Found 3 more accounts, he announced, settling at my kitchen table. Hidden under shell companies. Want to freeze them too? Already done, Olive smirked. Called in a few favours at the DA's office. Helen's sentence just got longer. I handed them Helen's note. They read it together, exchanging glances. Should we be worried? Brian asked. About what? I poured the wine. A prison threat from a woman who couldn't even hide her fraud properly? Who trusted her daughter with stolen money? Who thought I was too stupid to notice my own bank accounts being drained? Fair point. Olive raised her glass. To Karma. To Karma, we echoed. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Mum says, "You'll regret this. Family protects family." Natalia, still trying to play tough from her minimum security cell, I typed back, "Funny? That's exactly what I did. Protected myself from family." Then I blocked the number, just like I'd blocked Damien's, Helen's, Kenneth's, and every other Montgomery who thought they could threaten or guilt me into silence. "You know," Brian said, reviewing the files, "with all the recovered money plus interest, you're actually better off now than before. It was never about the money." I took another sip of wine. It was about trust, about truth, about learning that sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you marry into. Olive raised her glass again. To chosen family. Outside, a car alarm went off. Probably Natalia's flying monkeys trying to scare me. Let them try. I had security cameras, a restraining order, and most importantly, nothing left to steal. To chosen family, I agreed, and to never letting anyone else write your story for you. The perfect family was gone, but in its place, something real had grown. Something honest, something true, and that was worth every penny they tried to steal.
Hey, I'm Emma Carter. I'm 28, living in the heart of Silicon Valley, and I've just launched my own tech startup. Life's pretty good right now, but let me tell you, it wasn't always this smooth. I had to scale a lot of mountains to get here. It all started when I was 10. My mom remarried, and I suddenly had a new stepsister, Vanessa. She was 12, and well, we didn't exactly hit it off. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" She'd sneer whenever I aced a test. I'd shrug and say, "It's not about being smart. I just love learning." But Vanessa never understood that. She was always trying to one-up me, constantly jealous of any attention I got. Honestly, it was exhausting. Fast forward to college. I was thriving in computer science, absolutely loving it. Meanwhile, Vanessa, she dropped out after just one semester. "College is for losers," she told me once. "I'm going to be an entrepreneur." I just nodded and went back to my coding. Little did I know how her attitude would come back to haunt me. 3 years ago, everything flipped upside down. Vanessa accused me of stealing her boyfriend, someone I had zero interest in. "You've always been jealous of me," she screamed. "You can't stand to see me happy." I tried to reason with her. "Vanessa, I didn't steal anyone. I don't even know your ex," but she wasn't airing it. Next thing I know, she's accusing me of assault. Yeah, you heard that right. Me, the girl who apologizes to furniture when I bump into it. The trial was a nightmare. Vanessa convinced our dad and others to testify against me. I sat there, watching my family tear me apart, feeling like I was trapped in some bizarre alternate reality. "Emma has always been unstable," my stepdad said on the stand. "We've been worried about her for years." I wanted to scream. Instead, I gripped the edge of my seat and forced myself to stay calm. In the end, I was slapped with a suspended sentence and community service for something I didn't do. It felt like a cruel joke, except no one was laughing. But that moment changed me. I decided this wasn't going to break me. Nope. I'd use it as fuel. I threw myself into my work, nights, weekends, holidays. Coding, planning, dreaming. And 2 years later, Innovate Tech was born. Now my company's worth $50 million. Not too bad, right? Let me tell you, success really is the best revenge. Every time I see my company's name in the news, I think about Vanessa and everyone who doubted me. Emma Carter, Silicon Valley's rising star, one headline read. I clicked it out and framed it, not to boast, but to remind myself how far I've come. Just as I'm reviewing some new code in my office, my assistant buzzes in. "Ms. Carter, someone's here to see you." She says she's family. My stomach drops. I already know who it is. "Send her in," I say, bracing myself. And there she is, Vanessa. She looks like she just walked out of a discount fashion magazine, but with the same smug smile from our childhood. "Emma, little sis, look at you, all grown up and successful." I stand, keeping my desk between us. "Vanessa, What do you want? She saunters in, running her fingers along my bookshelf. What? I can't visit my sister. I've changed, Emma. I want to make amends. I snort. Amends? After everything you did to me? That's rich. For a moment, her face softens, and I almost believe her. Almost. I know I was terrible, but I've learned a lot since then. I've even got business experience now. Really? I raise an eyebrow. And what kind of business experience would that be? Her eyes light up. I've been involved in several multi-level marketing ventures, very exclusive stuff. And well, that's why I'm here. Here it comes. I brace myself. I want you to hire me as your CEO. I burst out laughing. I can't help it. You're joking, right? This is a prank. Her face darkens. I'm serious, Emma. I have skills you need, and don't you think you owe me? I blink, stunned. Owe you? Owe you for what? The false accusation. The trial? Turning our family against me? She waves her hand dismissively. Water under the bridge. But think about it. Having me here could really boost your image. Family reconciliation. Second chances. The press would eat it up. I shake my head in disbelief. Vanessa, there's no way in hell I'm hiring you. For anything. Let alone as CEO. You need to leave. Now. Her eyes narrow. You might want to reconsider, sis. I've got some information. Stuff that could really hurt your precious company if it got out. My blood runs cold. Are you blackmailing me? She shrugs, casually inspecting her nails. Call it what you want. But think it over. I'll be in touch. She saunters out, leaving me shell-shocked. I sink into my chair, my mind racing. What could she possibly have on me? And how far would she go to get what she wants? My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, sis. Time's running out. I stare at the message, a mix of anger and fear twisting in my gut. This isn't over, not by a long shot. Vanessa might think she has the upper hand, but she's forgotten one crucial thing. I'm not the same scared girl I was 3 years ago. I'm Emma Carter, CEO of Innovate Tech, and I don't go down without a fight. After Vanessa's little surprise visit, I knew I had to act fast. Something wasn't adding up, and I was determined to figure out her angle. I called an emergency meeting with my most trusted team members. The tension was thick as I paced the conference room. We've got a situation, I announced. What's up, Emma? Tyler, my head of security, asked, his expression sharp. I took a deep breath. My stepsister showed up today. She's demanding to be made CEO. And she's hinting at blackmail. Gasps echoed around the room. Sarah, my CFO, leaned forward, eyes wide. That's insane. What could she possibly have on you? That's what we need to figure out, I replied. I need you all to dig deep. Financial records, social media, anything you can find on Vanessa and my ex-stepdad Robert. There has to be a reason they're targeting us now. For the next few days, we worked nonstop. Coffee became my best friend, fueling my determination as we sifted through piles of information. Then, late one night, Tyler burst into my office, a stack of papers in hand. Emma, you're going to want to see this, he said, dropping the documents on my desk. As I flipped through the pages, my jaw dropped. Holy, I muttered. Turns out Vanessa wasn't just dabbling in multi-level marketing. She was neck-deep in a massive pyramid scheme, millions in debt. And the mastermind behind it all? My dear old stepdad, Robert. They're desperate, Sarah chimed in, standing beside me. Robert's other businesses are failing. They see your success as their way out. I slumped back in my chair, the pieces falling into place. Vanessa and Robert's plan was clear. They wanted to install her as CEO, then siphon money from my company to save themselves. Tyler nodded grimly. Looks like it. But we've got them, Emma. All the evidence is right here. I stood, a fire burning in my chest. Set up a meeting with Vanessa. It's time to end this. The next day, Vanessa swaggered into my office, her smile dripping with fake confidence. She was clearly expecting some kind of victory. Ready to accept my generous offer, sis? She asked, settling into a chair across from me. I leaned back, keeping my expression calm. Before we get to that, I thought we could have a little chat. Clear the air, you know. Her smile faltered for just a second. Of course. What do you want to talk about? Oh, you know, I said casually, life, business, That massive pyramid scheme you're involved in. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. I slid a folder across the desk. Really? Because I've got a lot of evidence that says otherwise. You, Robert, the millions in debt. It's all here. Vanessa snatched up the folder, frantically flipping through it. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can, I said, standing up. And you're going to. Right now, on record. I pulled out my phone, hitting the record button. So, Vanessa, why don't you start by telling me about that false testimony you gave 3 years ago? Then we'll move on to your current financial situation. Vanessa's face crumpled, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I didn't have a choice, she stammered. Dad said if I didn't testify against you, he cut me off. And now we're in so deep, Emma. You have to help us. I stopped the recording, my voice cold and steady. I don't have to do anything, Vanessa, except protect myself and my company. You've got 24 hours to come clean, or I'm taking this to the authorities. As I watched her rush out, tears streaming down her face, a weight lifted off my shoulders. The truth was finally out, but something told me this was far from over. The next morning, I called an emergency board meeting. Standing at the head of the table, I could feel the tension in the room. I know you've all been concerned about recent events. I began, my voice steady. Today, I'm going to lay everything out for you. For the next hour, I detailed it all: Vanessa's demands, Robert's involvement, the pyramid scheme. When I finished, the room was dead silent. Finally, our chief legal counsel spoke up. Emma, it's a lot, but you've handled it brilliantly. We're behind you 100%. Relief washed over me. I'd worried they might see this as a liability, but instead, they saw it as proof of my leadership. Just then, my assistant buzzed in. Miss Carter, Vanessa is here. She's demanding to see you. I looked at the board. Well, let's end this once and for all. Vanessa burst in, her eyes wild. Emma, have you thought about my offer? I really think. I cut her off. Vanessa, meet our board of directors. I've just finished telling them everything. She froze, looking around the room like a cornered animal. You can't do this. We're family. Family doesn't blackmail each other, I said firmly. It's over, Vanessa. Go home. As security escorted her out, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief, but I knew I had one more thing to do. That night, I called my mom. Mom, there's something you need to know about Robert, I said, and I told her everything, the fraud, the manipulation, all of it. There was a long silence on the other end. Oh, Emma, she finally said, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry, I should have believed you. It's okay, Mom, I replied, feeling a lump rise in my throat. It's not your fault. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I didn't press charges against Vanessa or Robert, but I made sure the evidence found its way to the right people. The SEC launched an investigation into Robert's businesses, and Vanessa's creditors came knocking. I watched from a distance as their world crumbled. Robert was charged with multiple counts of financial fraud. Vanessa declared bankruptcy, her dreams of easy money turning to dust. Meanwhile, Innovative Tech was thriving. Our stock was soaring, and we were making headlines for all the right reasons. One day, as I was leaving the office, I spotted a familiar figure huddled in the lobby. It was Vanessa, looking nothing like the confident woman who had strutted into my office weeks ago. Emma, please, she begged as I approached. I've lost everything. I need your help. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. I saw the scared, jealous girl she'd always been, and I felt nothing. I'm sorry, Vanessa, I said, and I meant it. But you're not a part of my life anymore. I wish you the best, but I can't help you. As I walked away, I felt a chapter of my life closing. The weight of the past, the pain of betrayal, it all fell away. I was free. That night, standing in my office and looking out over the San Francisco skyline, I thought about everything I'd been through, the false accusations, the trial, the hard work, the betrayals. It had all led me here. A smile crept across my face. I was Emma Carter, CEO of Innovative Tech, survivor of toxicity and architect of my own destiny. And my story, it was just beginning. Now I have a question for you. If you were in my shoes, would you have helped Vanessa in the end, despite everything she did? Or do you believe that cutting toxic people out completely is the only way to truly move forward? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Olivia Thompson. That was my wedding, and its chaotic aftermath. So let me fill you in. I'm a 28-year-old marketing executive, and I was absolutely ecstatic about marrying James, my software engineer boyfriend of 5 years. We were head over heels in love. But there was just one small hitch: his family. Sophia, I swear if Patricia makes one more passive-aggressive comment about my dress choices, I'm going to lose it, I groaned, collapsing onto my best friend's couch. Deep breaths, Liv. You've got this, Sophia soothed, handing me a much-needed glass of wine. Remember, you're marrying James, not his mom. I know, I sighed, taking a big gulp. It's just Patricia and Rachel are so possessive of James. It's like they can't stand the idea of another woman in his life. Have you talked to James about it? Yeah, but he just brushes it off, saying they're excited about the wedding. I don't think he realizes how weird they're being. I've been doing my best to involve Patricia and Rachel in the planning, hoping it might help us bond. But every little decision turned into a battle. One afternoon, I asked Patricia about centerpieces, showing her a few options I'd been thinking about. Oh, sweetie, those are quaint, she said, barely glancing at them. But don't worry, Rachel and I have some ideas that are much more suitable. I bit my tongue, reminding myself to pick my battles. But as the weeks passed, their behavior only got stranger. One day, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. Are you sure about this, Mom? Rachel asked. Absolutely, it'll be perfect. James will love it, Patricia replied. When I stepped into the room, they clammed up instantly. Oh, Olivia, we were just discussing cake flavors, Patricia said, her smile too tight. I nodded, pretending to believe her. Later that night, I vented to James. Babe, I think your mom and sister are planning something. They're being so secretive. James just laughed it off. They're probably just planning a surprise for us. You know how they are. I wish I could share his optimism, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As the wedding day approached, it only got worse. Patricia and Rachel started canceling our planning meetings at the last minute, always with vague excuses. Sorry, dear, something came up. But don't worry, we've got everything under control, Patricia would say in that overly sweet voice that made me want to scream. I tried to stay focused on the excitement of marrying James, but a sense of dread kept gnawing at me. Something was definitely brewing. The night before the wedding, Sophie stayed over for some much-needed girl time. I can't believe I'm getting married tomorrow, I said, a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling up inside me. Sophia squeezed my hand. You and James are perfect together. Try not to let his family's drama get to you, okay? You're right, tomorrow is about me and James. Nothing else matters. I nodded, determined to stay positive. As I drifted off to sleep, I hoped whatever Patricia and Rachel were plotting wouldn't ruin our special day. Little did I know, I was in for the shock of my life. But that's a story for another time. For now, I was just a bride-to-be, dreaming of her happily ever after. The next morning, I woke up with butterflies in my stomach. Today was the day I'd become Mrs. Carter. As I stretched, Sophia burst into the room, already dressed in her maid of honor gown. Rise and shine, bride-to-be. It's your big day, she chirped. I couldn't help but grin. I can't believe it's finally here, Soph. As we started getting ready, my other bridesmaids arrived and the room buzzed with excitement, hairspray, and the pop of champagne bottles. But despite the happy chaos, I couldn't shake my unease. Has anyone seen Patricia or Rachel? I asked, trying to sound casual. My bridesmaid Emma piped up, oh, I saw them earlier. They seemed excited about something. Probably just the wedding, I murmured, pushing down my anxiety. But as my makeup artist worked her magic, I caught a snippet of Emma whispering to Sophia. Did you hear about the surprise James's family is planning? My ears perked up instantly. Surprise? But Sophia quickly shushed her. Not now, Emma. I turned to face them. What surprise? Sophia plastered on a smile. Nothing to worry about, Liv. Let's focus on getting you ready. I nodded, but the knot in my stomach tightened as I slipped into my wedding dress. I tried to shake off the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. You look absolutely stunning, Sophia breathed, her eyes wide with admiration. I smiled at my reflection, pushing my worries aside. This is my day, I told myself, and nothing is going to ruin it. The ceremony began, and as the doors opened, I saw James waiting for me at the altar, looking as handsome as ever. My heart swelled with love. But as I started down the aisle, something caught my eye, two figures standing near him. My steps faltered as I realized it was Patricia and Rachel, both wearing white gowns that looked eerily similar to mine. Whispers rippled through the crowd, and my pulse raced. I locked eyes with James, who looked as shocked as I felt. The minister cleared his throat. Dearly beloved. The ceremony continued, but I felt like I was in a haze. I barely registered saying "I do" or even our first kiss as husband and wife. At the reception, I pulled James aside the first chance I got. "Did you know about this?" I asked, my voice tight. "Liv, I swear I had no idea," he said, wide-eyed. "I'm just as shocked as you are." Before I could respond, Patricia's voice boomed across the room. "Wasn't it just wonderful?" James wanted his two favorite women to share in the spotlight. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. James started to protest, but Patricia steamrolled over him. "Oh, sweetie, don't be modest. You told us how much you wanted us to feel special today, too." Rachel chimed in, a wide grin on her face. "We're practically sisters now, Olivia. Isn't it great?" I stared at James, silently pleading for him to say something, anything, but he just stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Sophie appeared at my side, gripping my arm. "Let's get some air, Liv." Once outside, I finally let the tears fall. How could they do this? How could James let them? Sophia hugged me tight. "I don't know, sweetie, but we'll figure it out." Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "OMG, you won't believe what I just overheard Patricia saying." I looked at Sophia, a mix of dread and determination washing over me. "I think it's time we did some digging. This isn't over." As we walked back into the reception, I plastered on a smile, pretending everything was fine. The party continued around me, but inside, I was already planning my next move. Patricia and Rachel might think they'd won, but they had no idea who they were messing with. The morning after the wedding, I confronted James in our hotel room, my emotions a swirling mix of anger, hurt, and confusion. "James, we need to talk about what happened yesterday." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Liv, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they were planning that." "But your mom said you wanted it, said you wanted your two favorite women in the spotlight," I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's complete bull. I never said anything like that. I'm as shocked as you are." I wanted to believe him, but doubt nagged at me. "Then why didn't you say something at the reception?" "You just stood there." I was in shock. I couldn't believe my own mother and sister would do that, he said, looking miserable. I paced the room, my wedding dress lying in a heap on the floor. "This isn't just about the dresses, James. It's about your family constantly undermining our relationship." I know, he said. "Look, let's cancel the honeymoon. We need to get to the bottom of this." I nodded, already texting Sophia. "We need to start digging." Over the next few days, Sophia and I turned into amateur detectives. We scoured social media, looking for clues. "Look at this," Sophia said one afternoon, showing me her phone. It was a cryptic post from Rachel. "Operation Whiteout is a go. Mom's genius plan is foolproof." Operation Whiteout? Are you kidding me? I fumed. We dug deeper, combing through James's family's business records. Something seemed off. "James, can you explain these financial reports?" I asked, showing him some documents, his brow furrowed as he flipped through them. "These numbers don't add up. There's money missing." As we investigated further, a disturbing pattern emerged. Patricia and Rachel had been siphoning money from the company for months. "I can't believe this," James muttered, his face pale. Then came the breakthrough. Emma, one of my bridesmaids, forwarded me a series of texts she'd managed to screenshot during the wedding. "OMG, Liv, you need to see these," Emma's message read. The texts were between Patricia and Rachel, outlining their plan to sabotage the wedding and drive a wedge between James and me. Patricia: "Once we show up in those dresses, Olivia will lose it. James will see how unstable she is." Rachel: "But what if James gets mad at us?" Patricia: "He'll get over it. We're his real family. That girl is just a phase." I showed James the messages, my hands shaking. "Your mom called me a phase, James. He looked like he might be sick. I can't believe they do this, all of this." We sat in stunned silence for a moment before I spoke again. "We need a plan. We can't let them get away with this." James nodded, a determined look in his eyes. "You're right. We need to be smart about this. If they've been embezzling, we need solid proof," I said, pacing the room. James nodded in agreement. "We should hire a forensic accountant. They can trace the missing money." I grabbed my phone and called Sophia, putting her on speaker. "Soph, we need your help. It's time to set a trap." Over the next hour, we pieced together a plan. We'd confront Patricia and Rachel, but not before gathering irrefutable evidence of their schemes. "We need to get them to admit to sabotaging the wedding. On record," I said, feeling a mix of anger and determination. James reached for my hand. "Whatever happens, we're in this together, right?" I squeezed his hand back. "Absolutely. They messed with the wrong couple." As night fell, we finalized every detail. Tomorrow, we'd start gathering the evidence. Patricia and Rachel were about to learn that their actions had consequences, and I was ready to fight for my marriage no matter what it took. The day of the confrontation arrived, and my stomach churned with anxiety. James and I walked into his family's home, a folder full of evidence tucked under my arm. "Mom, Rachel, we need to talk," James said, his voice steady but firm. Patricia flashed a sweet smile. "Of course, darling. What's this about?" I laid the financial records on the coffee table. "Let's start with the missing money from the company." Rachel's face turned pale, but Patricia scoffed. "I don't know what you're talking about." Without a word, James pulled out his phone and hit play, letting the recording of their conversation about sabotaging the wedding echo through the room. Patricia's eyes widened in shock. "You little sneak." She spat at me, her tone venomous. "James, are you really going to let her treat your mother this way?" James didn't waver. "No, Mom, this ends now. We know everything." Suddenly, Rachel broke down, tears streaming down her face. "It was all Mom's idea. She made me do it." Patricia gasped in disbelief. "Rachel, how dare you?" The room exploded into chaos, with Patricia and Rachel turning on each other, hurling accusations like daggers. James and I stood there, watching in disbelief as years of manipulation unraveled before our eyes. Finally, James spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't do this anymore. You're both out of my life." We left that day with heavy hearts but clear minds, determined to move forward. A fresh start was waiting for us in Seattle. Over the next few months, I threw myself into my career, eventually launching my own marketing firm. James focused on healing and reconnecting with his father, who had long been overshadowed by Patricia's domineering personality. One sunny afternoon, James burst into our apartment, waving his phone in the air. "Liv, you won't believe this." He showed me the news. The family business had collapsed due to the embezzlement scandal, and Patricia and Rachel were facing serious legal consequences. I hugged James tightly. "Are you okay?" He nodded, a mix of relief and sadness in his eyes. "Yeah, I think I am." As our first anniversary approached, we decided to renew our vows. The wedding we should have had from the start. Surrounded by true friends and supportive family, we stood under a floral arch in our backyard. I gazed into James's eyes, feeling overwhelmed by how far we'd come. This past year has been a roller coaster, but I wouldn't change a thing. It showed us how strong we are together. James squeezed my hands, smiling warmly. "I love you, Liv. Thank you for fighting for us." Later, as we danced under the stars, I spotted Sophia chatting with James's dad. She gave me a thumbs up, and I couldn't help but smile. We'd been through hell, but we had come out stronger. Resting my head on James's shoulder, I knew that whatever life threw at us next, we'd face it together, free of toxicity, stronger than ever. The story of Olivia and James has come to an end, but now I want to ask you, if you were in Olivia's shoes, would you have forgiven Patricia and Rachel, or do you agree with the decision to cut ties completely? Have you ever had to choose between forgiveness and protecting yourself from toxic family members? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences and opinions could help others facing similar situations. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these compelling stories of triumph over adversity. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. To mark his retirement, I'm organizing a special trip to Spain with our parents. Starting today, I'll be using your platinum card for the expenses to ensure we can make the most of this celebration. I hope you understand the urgency as we need to leave soon. Wait, I'm a bit confused. Did you mean you're using my card? Could you explain more about the trip? Sorry, I have to leave now, but we can talk about the details when I return. Just a heads up though, the card might not work. Apparently, my husband Daniel already took it to fund a vacation with our parents. I've tolerated a lot from Daniel, but this time he's crossed the line. When he gets back, he's going to regret that decision. My name is Angela. At 35, I've built a successful career at a major company after graduating from a prestigious university. Despite my young age, I'd earned enough to support not only myself but also Daniel, who's currently unemployed, and even a potential child, though we haven't started a family yet. We've been married for 4 years and the idea of having kids is still floating around. But while I have a stable job and a good income, I can't say I'm fully satisfied with my life. The thought of becoming a parent is just that, a thought. Daniel's unemployment, on the other hand, is a very real, pressing issue. Tonight, I'm not hungry because I snacked earlier, but that's trivial compared to Daniel's job situation. He didn't even go to the interview he had today. Instead, he stayed home browsing job sites. Daniel left his last full-time job over a year ago, and since then, he's only worked temporary part-time gigs, quitting each one after a short stint. He's currently looking at both full-time and part-time options, and I keep pushing him to focus on landing something permanent. I know timing is important, but I really wish he would find something stable soon. I know I can't push him too hard. He had a bad fallout at his last job due to a disagreement over work policies. At first, his coworkers supported him when he challenged his boss, but as tensions rose, they all sided with the boss, leaving Daniel isolated. Feeling betrayed and unsupported, he couldn't continue at the company and ended up resigning. After that, Daniel withdrew into himself. He spent weeks locked in his room, barely engaging with anyone. Slowly, he started to come around, helping out around the house, though his smiles never quite reached his eyes. After 3 weeks, he began job hunting again with a sense of optimism, determined to start fresh. But the process was harder than either of us expected. Despite his efforts and qualifications, rejection after rejection poured in, which Daniel believes stems from the bad blood with his former employer. Every rejection took a piece of him, leaving him disillusioned and questioning his own worth. The frustration built up. One day, I came home to shredded resumes littering the living room floor. It was clear that his latest interview hadn't gone well. I tried to approach the situation gently, suggesting he clean up the mess. That's when Daniel told me he was thinking about giving up on the job hunt altogether. He said there was no point. After all, we could live on my salary alone. While some people thrive as full-time homemakers, this wasn't the life Daniel envisioned for himself. It felt more like a way to avoid confronting the challenges of his job search. I could see how deeply his last job experience had scared him, and how the repeated rejections had chipped away at his confidence. I decided to give Daniel some space and support, hoping he'd eventually find his way. But in the meantime, we needed to have a serious conversation about our future and his career plans. This situation wasn't sustainable in the long term. I've always been dedicated to my work, and I knew this extended break wasn't about idling away. For me, it was a period of preparation for what was coming next. It's good to hear you're focusing on the future, I said, trying to reassure myself as much as him. Living close to my in-laws, Daniel's mom, Helen, and his dad, Peter, had its own dynamics. They began visiting more frequently after Daniel quit his job, probably out of concern. When they heard he was gearing up for his next career move, they seemed visibly relieved, but the reality was different. "The beer's running low. Can you pick some up on your way home?" I asked one evening. "Again? You're drinking too much. Maybe try to cut back a bit," I gently suggested. "Fine, I won't ask again. I'll just get it myself," Daniel snapped, his tone sharper than usual. Despite the appearance of preparing for a new job, Daniel wasn't making any real progress. His days were filled with TV and beer, and I could tell he was embarrassed about his unemployment. To protect his pride, I chose not to disclose the full extent of his inactivity to his parents. After more than 4 months without any job hunting activity, I realized it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Daniel, maybe it's time to start looking for work again. You seem more settled now," I ventured cautiously. "What? It's only been 7 months since I left my last job, and you want me to go back already? After everything that happened," he replied, his voice a mix of disbelief and irritation. I could feel the tension rising, but I knew we couldn't avoid this conversation any longer. I just think the break has been quite long. Let's not drag this out, I press, hoping to push the conversation forward. Stop nagging. You can't understand my feelings when your job is going well. I have my struggles too, you know. Everyone faces work problems and relationship issues. Daniel shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. Despite the tension, Daniel eventually agreed to start job hunting, which felt like a small victory. But the conversation had clearly upset him, and he walked out, still fuming. When things calmed down, I planned to apologize, hoping to smooth things over. Not long after, Daniel surprised me with an update. I got a job. Because you pushed me, he said one day, his voice a mix of reluctance and acknowledgement. That's great. Where? I asked, eager for more details. At a nearby supermarket, he replied. Then, with a hint of dismissal, he added, so yeah, you'll need to learn and work hard, right? I tried to encourage him. That's fantastic, whether part-time or full-time, any job is significant, but Daniel quickly brushed it off. It's just part-time, no need to work too hard. I bit my tongue, holding back any further comments. I figured that, for now, this was a step in the right direction, and maybe it would help him regain his footing. A few weeks later, Daniel came home one day and announced, I'm back. You're home early. How's the job going at the pub? I asked, mistakenly mixing up his actual workplace. I quit the supermarket job, he replied, his frustration evident. A college student there was being bossy, always telling me where to put the boxes in storage. It felt like harassment. I sighed internally. The student was probably just explaining proper procedures, something common in any job setting. But Daniel's pattern of finding and quitting jobs continued, and it was becoming clear that his challenges went deeper than just finding the right position. A year had passed since our last serious talk about work, and Daniel now tells me he's working part-time at a pub, an industry he'd never tried before. He's fascinated by it and claims he might have found his true passion. Really? That's fantastic, I replied, hoping that this time, something would stick. I respond, though I can't help but worry about the financial aspect. But isn't the income from a part-time job in a restaurant somewhat limited? That's okay, Daniel assures me, his eyes alight with a new kind of determination. I'm apprenticing right now, but I'm aiming to become independent. I plan to own my own place someday. That sounds like a solid plan, I reply, genuinely pleased to see him with a goal. Wanting to encourage him, I added, here, take this and treat yourself to something nice for once, handing him some money to support his new venture. However, the reality behind Daniel's optimistic facade soon became clear. Just 5 days after our conversation, he quit the pub job. Worse, he continued to deceive everyone around him, including his parents, from whom he accepted money under false pretenses. This revelation hit hard, and I found myself grappling with growing frustration and disappointment. Determined to address the issue head-on, I seized the opportunity one evening while he was watching a movie. Hey Daniel, let's talk, I said, reaching for the remote and pausing the film. It's frustrating when you pause at the best part. What is it? Daniel complained, clearly irritated. Daniel, you're 37 now, right? That's prime working age. Don't you think about the future? You spend all day at home, drinking and watching TV. The future? There are plenty of 37-year-olds not working. Lots of people enjoy life without a job, he retorted defensively. True, work isn't everything, but those people have something they're dedicated to. Do you have something like that? Yeah, I know you're upset about me not working. I'll look for another part-time job, Daniel replied, his tone dismissive but with a hint of concession. Though he seemed set on working only part-time, considering his history of quitting jobs and his deeper issues, I had been cautious about pushing him too hard. But now it was clear, Daniel needed to find some stability. Then, one day while I was at work, I received an unexpected text from Daniel. Dad's retiring, so we're going to Spain to celebrate. Starting today, I'm borrowing your platinum card. We're going to enjoy ourselves on your credit card. Alarmed, I stared at my phone, unsure of what to do next. I call him immediately. What do you mean you're going on a trip? Just what I said, he replies, irritation creeping into his tone. I don't understand. Please explain, I press, frustration mounting. The implications of his actions are manifold. Celebrating Peter's retirement is fine, but Daniel should have discussed the trip with me before using my money and credit card without asking. The thought that he might have told his parents he paid for it himself, using my credit card no less, only fuels my anger and sense of betrayal. This situation serves as a stark reminder that despite some steps forward, we still have deeper issues to confront. Daniel's recent actions highlight a significant moment in our ongoing struggles with responsibility and communication. As we discuss his upcoming trip to Spain, something you said caught my attention. You mentioned borrowing a credit card. Do you mean the one from our house? I ask. Yeah, why? He replies nonchalantly. Daniel, I own a platinum credit card. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just for those with high incomes. Factors like credit history and stable income play a part. It's possible to secure one in your 30s despite its high annual fee. I value the benefits and points it offers, but that card was supposed to be in my wallet. So you took the credit card from home. I press. Yeah, so I'm counting on you for the payment. Daniel responds, a bit too cheerfully for the situation. His casual demeanor and eagerness to leave make it clear he thinks he has everything under control, but the truth is about to complicate his plans significantly. What are you waiting for? We need to leave, he urges, eager to get moving. Hold on, I interrupt. The credit card you took won't work. What? That can't be right, he exclaims. It's under Angela's name, and it expires this month. It's close, but it shouldn't be an issue, he counters, disbelief creeping into his voice. You're lying. You're just trying to stop me from using the card. Daniel accuses, frustration mounting. Yes, it does expire this month, I admit. That's why I've already received a new one. Sometimes when a new card is activated, the old one stops working. I've already started using the new card, so the one you took won't work. Are you kidding me? You think I'm lying? His voice tinges with panic. If you don't believe me, I can send you the URL to the credit card website, or you can just try using the card. It would be funny to see you try to pay with a card that doesn't work. This credit card really won't work, he mutters, more to himself than to me. I can hear his parents calling him in the background, but he seems too flustered to respond. What should I do? I told them I'd pay for everything except the round-trip travel, he says. Oh, they covered the flight? I ask, realizing the gravity of his situation. Yes, Dad felt bad about covering all the trip costs, Daniel explains, a hint of relief in his voice. What should I do? I'm about to take a cab, and I don't even have money for that. That's not my problem, I respond firmly. You said you would pay for everything except the flight. Using my credit card in the first place was wrong. You should pay with your own money. How can I? I don't have any money right now, Daniel exclaims, the reality of his predicament sinking in. Daniel, you haven't been taking work seriously, I conclude, watching the situation unfold as a stark reminder of the broader issues at play. Daniel's reliance on deception rather than facing his responsibilities head-on has led us to yet another crossroads. It all came to a head when Daniel tried to impress his parents by planning a trip without having the actual means to fund it. As I hung up the phone to return to my work, I left Daniel in a predicament where he would eventually need to confess to his parents about his financial deception. Later that evening, after my workday ended, I received a call from Helen, Daniel's mother. I heard from Helen that Daniel had tried to use my credit card and lied about working. I'm so sorry for the trouble, she apologized. No, don't apologize, Helen, I replied, trying to keep my frustration in check. I'm sorry for the inconvenience with the credit card. Are you okay with the money? She asked, attempting to smooth over the immediate concerns. We'll cover the costs of this trip when we return. I'll make sure Daniel apologizes and starts looking for a job immediately, Helen assured me, though a hint of worry colored her voice. I appreciate that, but I'm considering divorcing Daniel, I confess, letting the weight of my decision hang heavily between us. Divorce? Because of this? Helen's surprise was evident even over the phone. It's part of it, I admitted. Daniel has been taking money from me for a while. I stopped giving him cash to limit his drinking. He got a part-time job and started buying his own alcohol, but his salary couldn't cover his daily expenses. He's been taking money from my wallet to buy alcohol, sometimes just $10, other times $50. Over the year, it added up. When he took my credit card for this trip, it made me realize he had no intention of changing. I understand. Should I inform Daniel about the divorce? Helen asked, her tone now somber. Could you just tell him I want a divorce? We can discuss the rest when he gets home, I requested, hoping to manage the situation more personally. The next morning, I received a call from Daniel, likely having learned about the divorce from Helen. Feeling drained, I chose not to answer. That evening, when I returned home from work, I found Daniel waiting for me in the living room, having cut his trip short. "I'll start working seriously now. Please don't leave me," he pleaded, his apology seeming sincere. Seeing him apologize and show remorse was unexpected, but it came far too late. He had a whole year to change, yet here he was asking for another chance after all my repeated warnings and the countless opportunities he wasted. "I'm not going to give you another chance, Daniel. You gave up on me a long time ago. My decision is final. Can you please leave?" I said, standing firm in my resolve to move forward without him. The cycle of broken promises had to end, along with our path together. "Please don't say that. If you won't let me stay, should I move out?" he asked, desperation creeping into his voice. "Only if you can afford the rent here," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside me. Daniel fell silent, the harsh reality of his financial instability and the looming divorce weighing heavily on him. He had no money for next month's rent, let alone a steady income to depend on. As the realization set in, he seemed to shrink before my eyes. With no options left, he quietly left the house. I watched him go, a part of me wanting to offer help for transportation, but I reminded myself that Daniel wasn't a child. He needed to manage his affairs. It was a sad moment, seeing him depart under such strange circumstances. Later, after Daniel had gone to his parents' house, Helen called me. They had let him stay for the night, but told him he must leave the next day. They were worried that if he stayed longer, it might encourage his dependence on them. As tough as it was for them, they believed it was necessary for Daniel's development. When Daniel returned to our house, desperation was clear in his voice. "Please help me. I've got nowhere to go and no money," he pleaded. "That's the result of your actions. You need to handle this yourself," I responded firmly. Over the past year, all Daniel had done was neglect his responsibilities and do as he pleased. It was painful but necessary to deny him entry, turning him away right at our doorstep. The divorce proceedings, though tense, were expedited with the support of his parents. I'm not entirely sure what became of Daniel afterward. He's likely still hopping from job to job, crafting excuses for his situation. I thought I would feel lonely without him, but I didn't. His presence had been a constant source of stress, always walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting him. Now free from the need to accommodate his whims, I've been living more comfortably. Unknowingly, our life together had become a burden, one I hadn't fully recognized until he was gone. Relieved of that weight, I now find myself living a lighter, more authentic life, no longer tethered to the needs and failures of someone else. Hello, my name is Sandra, and I'm 35 years old. I work in an office and currently live with my husband, Matthew, and his mother in their family home. Despite being married, I often feel a sense of emptiness in my relationship due to the relentless bullying from my mother-in-law, which never seems to improve. Matthew and I first met through our jobs. Our companies were collaborators, which led us to work closely on various projects. As we spent more time together, our relationship blossomed, and we began going out for meals and enjoying dates. After a year of dating, Matthew proposed, and we tied the knot when I was 32. At first, our marriage was blissful, just the two of us, exploring life together. I had yet to uncover Matthew's true nature. We both had thriving careers, allowing us to indulge in luxurious weekends filled with trips and gourmet dining. I envisioned a future brimming with beautiful memories. However, everything changed dramatically 3 years into our marriage when Matthew's father fell ill and passed away unexpectedly. Overwhelmed by grief, Matthew suggested we move in with his mother. I was taken aback by this idea. While I sympathized with her loss, we had only been married for 3 years, and I cherished our independence as a couple. In the wake of these events, my relationship with my mother-in-law soared. Her treatment of me became increasingly harsh, making our living situation unbearable. In an unexpected twist, she handed me divorce papers, claiming it would be best for everyone if Matthew and I separated. Confused and heartbroken, I decided to take a break and stayed with my parents for a month to gather my thoughts and seek advice from my father. During this time, I took the difficult step of filing for divorce. My decision felt right, but soon after, my mother-in-law began bombarding me with calls, begging for forgiveness and admitting her mistakes. This period was incredibly challenging, forcing me to reevaluate my relationships and the direction of my happiness. As I navigated these turbulent waters, I learned the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing my well-being amid familial pressures. Matthew expressed a strong desire to remain close to his mother after his father's death, feeling a deep responsibility to care for her as her only son. And her only son, he often said, "So I feel like I need to take care of her as much as I can," he told me, his voice heavy with a sense of duty that was only intensified by his regret for not being more attentive to his father before he passed away. Watching Matthew grapple with the weight of his father's death, I felt compelled to support him, even though I had reservations about moving in with his mother. Soon, we made the transition to my mother-in-law's house. Upon our arrival, she expressed her relief with warmth. "It's good of you to be here," she said, beaming at Matthew. "You don't have to worry anymore now that we're here," he reassured her. Her response was filled with gratitude. "Thank you, dear. I'll take care of you both from now on." While Matthew appreciated her words, I sensed a chill in the air whenever I was involved. After settling in, we joined my mother-in-law in the living room, where she had prepared an array of treats from her bakery featuring her beloved almond paste. Matthew's eyes sparkled with childlike glee as he praised the delicacies, and for a moment, I couldn't help but share in his joy. However, the atmosphere shifted when my mother-in-law turned to me, her expression icy. "Sandra, are you all right? Why do you look so lost?" Her tone was brisk as she suggested we make some coffee to accompany the pastries. As I fumbled to find the coffee supplies, she remarked snidely, "Where are the coffee pots and things? You're so useless, aren't you?" She gestured toward a cluttered shelf, adding with a dismissive tone, "Oh, look, they're over there where the wife's stuff is." Her comment stung, especially since it was unfounded. I had always done my part to help out, yet she seemed determined to portray me otherwise. This interaction served as a stark reminder of the challenging dynamics in the house, reinforcing my doubts about our decision to move in. Before my husband and I made this choice, we often visited his mother's home. Whenever I attempted to help around the house, she would insist, "No need, just sit down," effectively barring me from the kitchen. It was clear she had specific ways she preferred things done and didn't want anyone disrupting her system. Eventually, I stopped offering to help, thinking it might ease the tension. Unfortunately, this only made matters worse. She continued to snap at me unexpectedly, which felt incredibly unfair. After one particularly sharp rebuke, she fixed me with a stern gaze and demanded, "What's with that look? Do you have a problem?" Not wanting to escalate the conflict, I silently hoped my husband would intervene. I glanced over at him, seeking some support, but he was absorbed in his phone, seemingly oblivious to the discomfort his mother was causing me. It was frustrating and hurtful that he didn't seem to notice, let alone address the situation. This tension was only the beginning of our difficult living arrangement. Almost immediately after moving in, issues began to surface more frequently. One morning, she barged into our room, exclaiming, "Hey Sandra, why are you still sleeping?" I glanced at my phone, surprised to see it was only 6 o'clock a.m. I replied, slightly confused, "It's only 6 o'clock in the morning." Unfazed, she retorted, "So what? You should be up making breakfast and preparing Matthew's lunch. And don't forget, you're supposed to clean the bathroom every day." Her expectations startled me. I typically didn't make lunch for my husband since we often skipped breakfast due to not being morning eaters. Moreover, cleaning the bathroom before heading to work felt impractical and exhausting. The demands of waking up early to complete all these tasks seemed unreasonable and overwhelming. As I hesitated to respond to my mother-in-law's early morning demands, she grew increasingly irritated, questioning my capabilities and upbringing. "Why are you just standing there? Hurry up. What kind of upbringing did you have to become so useless?" Her harsh words cut deep, igniting a mix of anger and determination within me. In response, I resolved to meet her expectations head-on. From that point forward, I began waking up at 6 o'clock a.m. every day, preparing not just basic meals but also more elaborate dishes for breakfast and lunch for both my husband and me. I made it a point to keep the bathroom impeccably clean, and to my surprise, I found a sense of satisfaction in maintaining a spotless space. It felt good to create an inviting environment. My husband noticed my efforts and often expressed his gratitude for the meals and the cleanliness. However, despite my increased efforts, my mother-in-law's attitude did not improve. Instead, her demands escalated. One day, she would crave Japanese cuisine, only to switch to French the next, insisting on homemade pizza and freshly cooked pasta paired with red wine from upscale shops. These requests came with the tone of a special occasion, yet they quickly became daily expectations. The most frustrating aspect was that my husband seemed to always side with her. He would instruct me to adhere strictly to his mother's wishes, saying, "Make sure you do it exactly how my mom wants," without ever offering to help. He completely disengaged from the tasks, leaving everything to me. As a result, our precious days off were consumed with preparing elaborate dinners for his mother. Moreover, she relentlessly critiqued my life choices. "You're a wife. Why are you still working? You should be at home, supporting your husband. Plus, you're getting older and your time to have children is running out. Do you realize you're almost worthless?" she asserted daily. Her words were not only demanding but deeply hurtful, causing me to reflect on her character and wonder about the kind of upbringing that shaped such a harsh personality. Her constant criticisms made me question the sustainability of living under such scrutiny and pressure. One particularly stressful day, compounded by work and the ongoing tension with my mother-in-law, my husband confronted me with an accusation. "My mom says you're neglecting the housework. Is that true? You never listen to me and always act defiantly. I used to appreciate the lunches you made every day, but now it's all frozen food," Matthew said, his voice laced with disappointment. "Do you believe what your mom says?" "Of course I believe her. Why wouldn't I? Are you suggesting my mom is lying?" His tone sharpened, dripping with accusation. "You're acting terribly as a wife. Can't you fulfill your role properly?" I was furious at his lack of understanding and support. "What are you talking about? Just look for yourself. I make homemade lunches, clean, do laundry, and cook dinner every day." My frustration boiled over. "I'm telling you to stop lying. What mom says is true," Matthew snapped, dismissing my efforts as if they were inconsequential. "You're acting crazy." "Crazy? You're such a mama's boy. What are you even saying? You never believe me or help me with anything," I shot back, the argument escalating quickly. His face flushed with anger, and our exchange marked a significant deterioration in our relationship. From that day on, home became increasingly challenging. Whenever my mother-in-law criticized or harassed me, Matthew began echoing her insults. "Hey, is dinner ready? I just got home." "Hurry up," he demanded one evening as soon as he walked through the door. "You're so slow and useless," my mother-in-law added, her words hitting me like daggers. As they berated me, I muttered under my breath, "You're both failures," feeling exhausted and isolated. They then decided to go out to eat together. "Never mind. Let's just go out to eat," Matthew suggested abruptly. "That sounds good. Let's go," my mother-in-law agreed enthusiastically. I was left behind, completely excluded from the outing, a clear sign of how disconnected I had become from what was supposed to be my family. Each day, I endured insults and belittlement from both of them, making me question the viability of staying in such a marriage. Was enduring this relentless negativity really worth it? It was then that life handed me an unexpected chance to change everything. As I pondered this new opportunity, a flicker of hope ignited within me. I finally realized that I didn't have to endure the toxic environment created by my husband and mother-in-law any longer. Their usual taunts persisted, unabated. "You're worthless as a daughter-in-law. I can't fathom how my son ended up marrying you," my mother-in-law scolded, with Matthew smirking beside her, clearly enjoying the moment. Seizing the opportunity, I stood up with unwavering resolve. "I'm going back to my parents' house for a month," I announced. They both stared at me, their faces a mixture of surprise and anger. "What about the house? What if there's a fire?" my husband exclaimed, panic evident in his voice. "You're being incredibly irresponsible. If you leave, then just divorce my son," my mother-in-law shouted, her anger palpable as she yanked open a drawer and pulled out divorce papers, thrusting them at me. "Go ahead, sign them," she challenged. "Oh, Mom, you're prepared for this," Matthew remarked, clearly taken aback. "That's right, you have no choice but to obey us. If you don't like it, then get a divorce," my mother-in-law asserted, convinced of her control. "Fine, let's get divorced then," I responded decisively, surprising them both. Their eyes widened in shock at my firm stance, but I ignored their reactions and began filling out the divorce papers. "I'm done with my part, so please leave quickly," I told them, my voice steady. Matthew blinked in disbelief, unable to reconcile the woman standing before him with the one he thought he could easily manipulate. Was that earlier just a bluff? That's lame, he muttered, struggling to grasp that I was genuinely reclaiming my life and independence. When I insisted on finalizing the divorce, Matthew's demeanor shifted dramatically. He glared at me sharply. Don't mess around. I'm serious, I asserted, my resolve unwavering. Without another word, Matthew snatched the divorce papers from my hands and swiftly filled in his section. He slammed the papers down on the table. Is this good enough? He asked, his tone bitter. Even if you want to take it back, it's too late. Oh well, this means it's over for you too, he declared, attempting to mask his dismay with bravado, a cold laugh escaping him. My mother-in-law chimed in my heart, it's over for you guys. But I thought to myself, it's truly over for you. With no further delay, I left their house and immediately submitted the divorce papers. When I returned to my parents' home, I recounted everything to my father, who was deeply shocked but promised to support me in whatever actions were necessary. A month later, my phone was inundated with calls from my mother-in-law. Hello, what do you want? I answered, my tone icy. We're strangers now, she replied, her voice pleading. Please don't say that. Matthew and I are in a difficult situation. Her words dripped with insincerity. Oh really? That must be tough for you, I replied curtly. Her response was predictably sarcastic, revealing the true colors of our fractured relationship. I haven't said anything yet. I'd rather end this call. Can I hang up? I pressed, eager to disconnect. Wait, I have a favor to ask. Can you talk to your father? She implored, her voice tinged with desperation. Why should I, after everything you and Matthew put me through? I shot back, irritation bubbling to the surface. I'm sorry about that, she replied, attempting to mend bridges. I didn't realize your father's company is an important business partner of Matthew's. Her words hit me hard. It turned out my father ran a successful company that had dealings with Matthew's. We probably discussed this before getting married, but at that time, my father-in-law was still alive, and my mother-in-law hadn't felt the need to involve herself in those discussions. As for Matthew, it was strange that he didn't remember, but perhaps he had forgotten while siding with his mother and criticizing me. When my father decided to sever business ties, Matthew's company offered to continue the contract by letting him go, resulting in his job loss. This turn of events highlighted the consequences of their actions and how my departure had set everything in motion. Matthew had ambitious plans to remodel our family home, anticipating us living together long-term. To finance these renovations, he had taken out a substantial loan. However, with his recent unemployment, managing the repayments became nearly impossible. Up until our divorce, I had contributed my fair share to our living expenses, which had helped keep us afloat financially. Now, with the divorce finalized, Matthew and my mother-in-law found themselves in a precarious situation. Why did you feel the need to show off by remodeling the house, Matthew? You're so proud, just like your mother. I couldn't help but think as I listened to their financial turmoil. My mother-in-law reached out again, her voice desperate. Please help me, she pleaded. I apologize for my mistakes, she added, her tone weak and devoid of her usual defiance. I'm sorry, but I can't forgive you for what you've done, I responded firmly. If you're expecting me to help, it's pointless. Instead, focus on finding a job, even if it's temporary. This conversation is a waste of time, so I'm ending it now. With that, I ended the call and took the decisive step of blocking their numbers. Later, I learned that Matthew and his mother couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments and were forced to sell the house. It was a relatively new home, one that could have comfortably supported my mother-in-law through her retirement. It was a shame that their poor financial management and unnecessary extravagance led to such a waste. They ended up relocating to an apartment on some island where my ex-husband now works part-time. This drastic change in their circumstances highlighted the impact of their actions and our severed ties. While they now relied on my mother-in-law's pension to make ends meet, I was preparing for a significant change in my own life. Instead of renting a new place right away, I decided to stay with my parents until my departure. This time with them was precious to me, and I intended to cherish every moment until I moved overseas. I was filled with excitement and hope about starting anew in a different country. Despite the past difficulties with my ex-husband and mother-in-law, I remained optimistic about what the future held. It puzzled me why they had treated me poorly, but I felt relieved to have severed those ties. Perhaps in this new chapter abroad, I might even meet a wonderful partner and explore the possibility of an international marriage. I genuinely wish happiness for my ex-husband and mother-in-law in whatever their future endeavors might be. Thank you for following my story. If you found it engaging, please consider subscribing to the channel. I look forward to sharing more updates and stories with you as I embark on this exciting journey. When my mother-in-law was asked if I would be preparing the New Year's meal, she responded with a dramatic wave of her hands and a burst of laughter. Absolutely not. That's impossible. My daughter-in-law can't cook to save her life, she exclaimed, proudly calling me the hopeless housewife who couldn't even manage a New Year's feast. She declared herself the sole authority in the kitchen. Her laughter wasn't just annoying. It felt like an outright insult. After enduring her derision for so long, I knew it was time to stand up for myself. My name is Natalie, I'm 29, and I got married last year. As a full-time housewife, I take pleasure in cooking, and thankfully, my husband isn't too picky. Anything edible seems to satisfy him. He's a kind man, and we live in a beautifully renovated home with a dream kitchen, complete with a large island. It should have been the perfect setup, but there's always been one persistent issue. My mother-in-law. She prides herself on her culinary skills and views me as a complete disappointment in the kitchen. Worse still, she doesn't keep her opinions to herself. Just the other day, while I was outside doing laundry, I overheard her gossiping loudly with the neighbor's wife. My daughter-in-law can't even cook properly. It's dreadful. I wonder about her upbringing. My poor son is so unfortunate to be stuck with her, she lamented. Each word felt like a thorn piercing through me. It was bad enough to endure her critiques of my cooking, but to hear her belittle my family was completely unacceptable. I realized I couldn't let this continue. It was time to take a stand. I've always held my parents in high regard, cherishing the countless lessons they taught me. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law never bothered to understand or appreciate those values. Instead, she chose to belittle me at every opportunity. Today was just another chapter in her ongoing series of critiques, her biting remarks echoing throughout the neighborhood. She doesn't even know how to season food properly. If I don't cook, there's no flavor at all. Why did my son have to marry someone like her? The neighbors chimed in, adding fuel to the fire with their jabs, questioning why she hadn't taught me herself. I muttered under my breath, enough is enough. I wish they would all just stop. My hand gripped a glass so tightly that it cracked. That evening, when my husband Daniel came home and my mother-in-law was conveniently in the shower, I saw my chance to finally let it all out. Can't you do something about your mother? I pleaded with Daniel as I helped him out of his jacket. She's going around the neighborhood every day, making me out to be some hopeless cook. I opened up about my mother-in-law's relentless behavior, feeling it was necessary. Daniel isn't particularly close to his mother and genuinely cares about me, so I expected his support, maybe even hoped he would defend me or, at the very least, acknowledge the strain her words were causing. But his reaction took me by surprise. Well, Mom has always been very particular about cooking, he said, scratching his head, looking genuinely troubled. The word particular hung in the air, so light yet laden with accusation. I almost fired back with a comment about her overpowering seasoning but held back, staring at him in disbelief, wondering if he truly understood the impact of his mother's words. Come on, she's a good cook, right? He asked nonchalantly. I was taken aback. Well, I don't know much about good or bad cooking, he continued, but please just try to get along with Mom. That's what a wife is supposed to do, isn't it? With that, he left the room, leaving me stunned. Was this some kind of joke? Thoughts swirled in my mind. A good cook. A wife's duty. What does that even mean? Frustration surged within me. As much as I hated to admit it, my mother-in-law's cooking was far from delightful. She had monopolized the kitchen for the past year, ostensibly to spare me the effort, but I had never truly enjoyed her meals. She firmly believed that piling on the spices equated to better flavor. Daniel, raised on those robust tastes, always finished his plate without a word of complaint, but for me, eating such heavily spiced food was a daily struggle. Not only was it unpleasant, but I feared it might ruin my palate and wasn't great for my health. Each mealtime had become a silent battle, where I forced myself to finish my portion out of fear of the consequences of leaving any behind. Alone in the quiet of our bedroom, I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me. I let out a heavy sigh, The real shock wasn't that Daniel failed to criticize his mother's cooking style, it was that he didn't seem to take my feelings seriously. In moments like these, I found myself missing the familiar, comforting meals from my parents' home. As the year drew to a close, so did the anticipation for the New Year's celebrations. This would be my first New Year since marrying into this family traditionally marked by a large gathering and a feast prepared by my mother-in-law. However, instead of joy, I felt a sense of dread as I pondered how to navigate familial expectations and the overpowering flavors that had become a regular part of my life. When Daniel casually mentioned that it was customary for the family to gather and enjoy the feast prepared by his mother for New Year's, I couldn't help but silently question the tradition. Outwardly, I managed only a half-hearted "oh." It seemed the relatives who eagerly attended each year had grown to love her cooking, or perhaps they had simply become accustomed to it. Despite feeling a twinge of sympathy for them, I couldn't shake the slight dread creeping in. Even though my mother-in-law frequently criticized my supposedly bland culinary skills, my parents had instilled a strong confidence in my cooking abilities. I secretly longed to cook for everyone and maybe even introduce some subtler flavors to Daniel's palate. With newfound resolve, I decided it was time to discuss the New Year's feast with my mother-in-law. As she bustled around the kitchen, pulling out large plates and pots, I seized the moment. "I'd like to help with the New Year's feast," I ventured, hoping to contribute to the upcoming celebration. But as she turned to face me, her expression was one of immediate dismissal. "Natalie, you can't even cook properly. How can you prepare food for the New Year's celebration? We'll have not just our family but all the relatives over. You know that, right?" she retorted. "But I'm part of this family now. It's my duty as a wife to contribute," I insisted, determination rising within me. I argued, my voice laced with desperation, but she simply shook her head. "Do you want to create an awkward atmosphere for the New Year? Everyone comes expecting my cooking. We can't disappoint them. Please, if you understand, don't interfere." Frustration bubbled within me as I watched her dismiss my offer, turning back to her preparations. When New Year's Day arrived, the house quickly filled with about 20 relatives, more than I had anticipated, many of whom I hadn't seen since the wedding. As each guest arrived, I greeted them warmly, ushering them into the spacious dining room that had once overwhelmed me when I first moved in. The unusually large room buzzed with energy, perfectly suited for such gatherings. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law was already deep in conversation with the arriving relatives, taking center stage in the kitchen and being the heart of the celebration. During the festive preparations, a relative curiously asked, "By the way, is Natalie preparing the feast this year?" My mother-in-law waved her hands dismissively and laughed. "That's impossible. My daughter-in-law can't cook at all. She's a hopeless housewife who can't even manage a New Year's feast. I handle all the cooking around here," she declared. Her laughter sounded harsh and unwelcoming. It was not a light-hearted joke, but a pointed insult directed at me. At that moment, I reached my breaking point. "Mother-in-law, please let me prepare the New Year's feast this time. If it doesn't turn out well, you can always make a palate-cleansing dish," I suggested, breaking the tense silence that ensued. After a brief pause, the room began to buzz with whispers from the relatives. "Well, I certainly don't want a disappointing meal, but they say practice makes perfect, right?" my mother-in-law said, her tone conceited yet reluctantly acknowledging the shifting tide of opinion among the relatives in favor of giving me a chance. "All right, fine. If it doesn't work out, Freda can step in," she added. "Very well then, Nat, you can take the reins this year," she stated, her words tinged with reluctance. "But remember, I can always step in, ladies and gentlemen, so indulge this hopeless housewife's whims for once," she announced, her tone dripping with patronization. But with my heart swelling with pride and determination, I was ready to showcase my cooking skills to everyone. This was my chance to change their perceptions. I poured my heart into preparing the meal, and as I presented the beautifully arranged feast on a large platter, exclamations of admiration filled the room. "Wow, the meal turned out perfectly. It looks delicious. Well done, Natalie. This isn't something just anyone could pull off," they praised enthusiastically. Amidst their compliments, my mother-in-law, who had just returned from shopping for her so-called palate-cleansing dish, glanced at my spread. "It looks all right, I suppose, but it's probably bland," she remarked, emphasizing the word probably and clearly reluctant to acknowledge my success. Ignoring her comments, I focused on distributing paper plates and forks to the relatives, encouraging them to enjoy the meal. Meanwhile, My mother-in-law hurried back into the kitchen to prepare what she deemed necessary, keeping a watchful eye on us as if expecting to intervene at any moment. The relatives tentatively began sampling the dishes I had prepared. As I watched the guests sample the dishes, a murmur of approval began to build. My mother-in-law, not one to miss an opportunity, chuckled with apparent satisfaction and announced loudly, "See? I told you this is why she's the incompetent daughter-in-law." She turned to the crowd, adding, "You don't need to force yourselves. I'll prepare the palate-cleansing dish right away." Tone dripped with triumph, as if she expected to salvage what she assumed would be a culinary disaster. However, her satisfaction was quickly overshadowed by the sounds of genuine delight coming from the dining room. "This is the first time I've tasted New Year's food this delicious. It's like something from a fancy hotel." "Natalie, where did you learn to cook like this?" exclaimed one of the relatives, their praise electrifying the atmosphere. Amidst the lively crowd, my mother-in-law stood momentarily stunned into silence by the unexpected approval. With everyone's attention now on me and none on her, I felt a surge of confidence. It was the perfect moment to reveal my background. "I grew up in a family that is deeply passionate about food," I began, my voice steady and clear. "My family owns a renowned French restaurant celebrated for its authentic cuisine and even recognized in the Michelin Guide. My father is the fifth generation overseeing culinary operations, and my mother, from a long lineage of chefs, supports him wholeheartedly. From a young age, I absorbed the art of cooking by observing my parents, honing my skills as they expertly crafted every dish. By the time when I was in upper elementary school, I earnestly learned the art of cooking from my parents. Although my brother is poised to inherit the restaurant, the culinary knowledge they passed down remains a deep source of pride for me." This revelation shifted the atmosphere in the room, further cementing my newfound respect among the relatives and leaving my mother-in-law to contemplate the unexpected turn of events. As the room buzzed with impressed voices, I felt a profound connection to my heritage, finally proud to share my true culinary roots. That's why I found it impossible to tolerate my mother-in-law's dismissive remarks and actions that undermined my skills. To her, dismissing my cooking was akin to denying my parents' legacy and the restaurant that had been a cornerstone of our family for generations. I had mentioned this before I got married, but it seemed to have fallen on deaf ears. My mother-in-law often treated me condescendingly, viewing me as just the daughter of a quaint countryside restaurant. Daniel, largely indifferent to culinary nuances, probably couldn't differentiate between a family-run establishment and authentic French cuisine. I sometimes questioned why I had married into this family, a thought I muttered under my breath as I turned to the sound of someone calling my name, meeting the gaze of several pairs of expectant eyes. "We have seconds. I want more." Despite the generous portions I had prepared, everything had been completely devoured. A wave of happiness washed over me, and I felt tears welling up. Receiving praise for my cooking should have felt routine, something I had known before marrying, yet over the past year, I seemed to have forgotten that sensation entirely. "Yes, I'll prepare more right away," I declared, renewed determination surging through me as I hurried out of the room. As I passed by my motionless mother-in-law, I noted that she had, after all, brought some ingredients, despite her earlier criticisms. "Mother-in-law, I'll use these ingredients," I announced, but she offered no reply. The groceries sat untouched in the kitchen as I reached into the supermarket bag to inspect its contents. Just then, 4 women entered the kitchen. Could you teach us how to cook too?" one of them asked, their faces eager with anticipation. I glanced up to see them lined up before me, their ages varying from my own to that of my mother-in-law's. This unexpected request bolstered my confidence. Here was a chance not just to share my heritage but also to foster a bond over our mutual love of cooking, transcending generational and family boundaries. It was a moment of validation, a chance to demonstrate the depth of my skills and the rich culinary legacy I carried. As I looked into their eyes, each gleamed with the same eager curiosity. "The food was amazing. We'd love to learn from you," they enthused. Hearing those words ignited something within me. I had never considered teaching cooking before, but witnessing their admiration awakened a newfound desire to share my knowledge. With a smile, I gladly agreed to teach them, and the room erupted with excitement. The group began animatedly discussing how they would impress their husbands by honing their cooking skills. Thus began an impromptu cooking class. My mother-in-law watched us from a distance, her expression unreadable as she silently tidied up. As we concluded the class and the dishes were served, they were met with enthusiastic praise. I must admit, Grace's cooking can be a bit too salty for my taste, but Natalie's dishes are delicate and refined, truly professional French cuisine. Jennifer, one of the participants, beamed with joy at the recognition. Feeling a mix of pride and unease, I offered a faint smile to my mother-in-law, but she remained focused on cleaning, undisturbed by the ongoing praises. Just as I pondered how to ease the tension, Daniel stepped in with a decisive statement. I actually prefer Natalie's cooking. Mom's strong flavors have always made me concerned about salt and health. Going forward, Natalie should handle the cooking regularly. His words seemed to take my mother-in-law completely by surprise, and before long, she quietly withdrew to her room. The news of my culinary abilities spread quickly among my relatives, marking a significant shift in how they viewed me and my place in the family. This unexpected turn of events not only bolstered my confidence but also subtly shifted the household dynamics in ways I hadn't anticipated. As word of my culinary talent spread, I soon found myself receiving requests to teach cooking classes. Initially hesitant, I remembered the joy from the impromptu New Year's cooking session and decided to embrace the opportunity. People genuinely valued my skills, and through word of mouth, my reputation as a skilled chef of authentic French cuisine grew rapidly. Before I knew it, I was featured in media outlets and celebrated as a housewife renowned for her cooking. Requests for my classes began pouring in from all over the country. Life, I learned, is wonderfully unpredictable. This unexpected journey even led to a feature about me in a prominent cooking magazine. In the article, I spoke about my culinary heritage and my father's influence on my skills. As for my mother-in-law, who had once spread less than flattering rumors about my cooking abilities, she ceased commenting on culinary matters altogether after the shift in family and public opinion. Over time, she gradually stopped cooking entirely, leaving me with full responsibility for meals in our home. Despite the increased busyness, we now live together peacefully, a significant change from our earlier days. I was completely taken aback when my husband Jonathan suggested out of the blue that I should move back to my parents' house, even though they were already living with us. His sudden declaration left me speechless. He seemed to think he was being perfectly logical, though, and with a blunt tone, he asked, "Do you have a problem with that? Don't argue with me. I'm fine with divorcing you if you do." His behavior had grown cold and distant recently, and I'd been wrestling with my own frustrations. I had even considered the possibility of divorce, but I never imagined he'd be the one to force me out of our home. After all, I was the one covering our $3,200 monthly expenses. Did he even recognize that? As I stood there in disbelief, he grew more agitated and demanded, "Leave this house now. My parents won't feel comfortable with you here." I couldn't understand why I was suddenly the one who had to go, but in that moment, I agreed. "Fine, I'll take all my things with me," I replied. He seemed satisfied with my compliance and, without another word, said, "Then do it," before walking away. Without hesitation, I contacted a store to sell my belongings. My name is Betty, and I live with Jonathan, who's 3 years older than me. We met through mutual friends, and what started as a casual introduction turned into an entire day spent together. Jonathan had shared his dream of becoming a voiceover artist, and I was drawn to his deep, soothing voice. I've always been fond of such tones. He must have felt the same connection because we exchanged numbers and began planning more outings. Before long, we were in a relationship without ever formally discussing it. At the time, I had just graduated from college and started my career. Dating someone with more life experience like Jonathan felt exciting. My friend Laura voiced concerns about our age difference, but I brushed it off. "It's only 3 years," I told her, and I genuinely liked Jonathan. Feeling confident in his affection for me, Laura eventually came around, trusting my judgment. Jonathan and I had been together for 2 years when he brought up the idea of marriage. I had already told my parents about him, including his age, and they were eager to meet him, hopeful about our future together. I often wondered when he would propose, and in typical Jonathan fashion, it happened during one of his regular visits to my apartment. We were just lounging around, enjoying each other's company. It wasn't the most romantic setting, but it felt right for us. Then, without much fanfare, he popped the question. I casually responded, "Sure, let's get married." Maybe we both approached the idea with a laid-back attitude. After Jonathan proposed, we made the usual rounds of visiting each other's parents. But when we went to his family's house, it quickly became clear that I didn't quite mesh with them. The house was filled with decor meant to imitate old-fashioned luxury, but it all felt rather forced. His parents wore expensive clothes and flashy jewelry, giving off the impression that they were trying too hard to appear wealthy. It was clear our tastes and values were different, and I doubted we'd ever truly get along. During the visit, Jonathan's mother even made a hurtful comment about my appearance. I was stunned by how the family of the man I intended to marry could behave that way. But in the end, I reminded myself that I was marrying Jonathan, not his family. We were set to start our own lives together, and if I didn't enjoy being around his parents, I could always limit my time with them. With that thought, I decided not to let it bother me too much. After our wedding, as we settled into our new condo, I began to notice that Jonathan seemed distracted. One day, out of the blue, he asked, "Hey, who was that woman in the blue dress at our wedding?" Given that several guests had worn blue, I couldn't immediately figure out who he meant. "Which woman in a blue dress?" I asked, trying to jog my memory. "You know, the one who gave a speech as your best friend," he clarified. "Are you talking about Laura?" I replied, realizing that Laura had, in fact, worn a blue dress. "Yes, that's her," Jonathan said, though his tone carried a hint of unease. I was puzzled. "What's wrong with Laura?" I asked, sensing something off. "Oh, it's nothing," he said, brushing it off. "Just something I noticed the other day. I thought I saw someone who looked like her on my way to work," Jonathan said, his expression a bit unsettled. "It reminded me she was your best friend who spoke at our wedding." I was confused by Jonathan's sudden curiosity about Laura and his flustered response, but before I could ask more, he laughed awkwardly and retreated to his room. Not long after, Laura called me, brimming with excitement. "Betty, my boyfriend's coming back to Canada next year," she exclaimed. Laura and her boyfriend had been together since high school, having known each other since childhood. He had moved away in middle school, but they stayed close, first through letters and then by reconnecting in high school when he finally confessed his feelings for her. I had always loved hearing about Laura's romantic adventures. Even though her boyfriend had been working abroad for a few years, their relationship had remained strong. "Do you think he'll propose when he's back?" I teased. Laura giggled. "Maybe, but you're always jumping ahead, Betty." "Well, if he does, make sure to invite me to the wedding," I joked. "I'll expect another heartfelt speech like the one you gave at mine." "Oh, of course," Laura said, laughing. "But don't set the bar too high." We both chuckled, sipping our tea and enjoying the familiar comfort of our friendship. Laura had always been there for me, and I for her, sharing our lives and supporting each other through any struggles. Around this time, though, I began noticing some changes in Jonathan's routine. He started coming home later and later. "Working late again tonight?" I asked one evening as he walked through the door. "Yeah, why? Do you think I shouldn't work?" he snapped, a defensive edge in his voice. Jonathan had never let go of his dream of becoming a voiceover artist, and while I admired his dedication, it was starting to take its toll. He juggled several part-time jobs to pay for his voice artist training, but all his earnings went straight to that, leaving me to cover all of our living expenses. Saving money together felt impossible, and the strain was becoming more obvious with each passing day. As his hours at his part-time job grew longer, my concern deepened. "Hey, haven't you been working too much lately?" I asked, trying to sound supportive. "They shouldn't be making you do so much overtime, especially for a part-time job." He brushed me off, unwilling to discuss it, but deep down, I knew his relentless pursuit of his dream was starting to create a rift between us, both financially and emotionally. One day, I finally spoke up. "I told you, I'm worried." "I'm fine. More money is always better. Just keep your opinions to yourself." Jonathan snapped back, his tone colder than ever. By that point, he had grown distant, barely acknowledging me, and had stopped using my name altogether. He only referred to me as you when we spoke, and I had hoped that marriage would bring more warmth, more connection between us. Instead, his words had turned sharp and dismissive. The gentle, soothing voice I had fallen in love with had become rough and harsh. Jonathan had also been drinking more, and his voice even sounded hoarse at times, a concerning issue for someone aspiring to be a voiceover artist. Yet he showed no interest in discussing his health or making any changes. Conversations with him became rare, and eventually, he started avoiding me completely, even when we were in the same room. Amidst all of this, Laura called me, saying she had something important to discuss. I was eager to meet up, desperate for a break from the tension at home. We decided to meet at a cafe, and when we arrived, Laura carefully chose a booth with a clear view of the counter and staff. "You picked this spot on purpose?" I asked, noticing her cautious demeanor. "Yes," she replied, her expression serious. "I want a place where the staff can see if there's someone suspicious around." "A suspicious person? Is that what you wanted to talk about?" I asked, growing concerned. Laura nodded, her face tight with worry. She explained that ever since she left her job a month ago, she had felt like someone was following her. Lately, she even sensed she was being watched on her days off. The reason she picked that particular booth was because she feared the person might try to eavesdrop on our conversation. "Have you gone to the police?" I asked. "I did, but since there's been no direct contact, they said there isn't much they can do," she sighed. "What about your boyfriend? Isn't he coming back next month? Maybe he can help," I suggested, hoping she had someone nearby for support. "I'm planning to talk to him, but I wanted to talk to you first. You're closer," she explained, her voice tinged with unease. The weight of Laura's words hung in the air, and as we sat there, I realized that both of us were caught in unsettling situations. Her with a potential stalker, and me with a marriage that seemed to be unraveling before my eyes. I understood Laura's need for immediate support. She hadn't gotten a clear look at her stalker, making the situation even more frightening. She couldn't tell if the person was a man or a woman, and the constant fear was wearing her down. Determined to help, I discreetly started watching from a distance, hoping to identify who was following her. At the same time, I was wrestling with my own troubled relationship with Jonathan, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it yet. Then, I made a shocking discovery. The person shadowing Laura was none other than my husband, Jonathan. He had always claimed to be working late, but I noticed that after his shifts, he would linger near Laura's workplace and follow her when she left. Seeing him do this was beyond unsettling. The man responsible for my best friend's fear was my own husband. Jonathan's behavior completely shattered my perception of him. The man I had once loved, the one I thought I knew, now seemed like a stranger. That disturbing grin he wore as he followed Laura chilled me to the bone, and the love I had once felt turned to ice. I knew I had to tell Laura the truth. I urged her to move immediately for her safety. With help from her colleagues, we arranged for someone to drive her from the underground parking lot to her new residence, taking every precaution to ensure she remained safe. As Laura made her escape, Jonathan's frustration grew. His anger eventually erupted. "My parents are going to live here, so you need to go back to your parents' house," he demanded one day, completely out of the blue. I was shocked by the sudden and unreasonable ultimatum. "If you have a problem with that, then I'm fine with divorcing you," he spat, losing his temper. Though I had already considered divorce many times before, hearing him say it so callously hit me hard. The reality of our crumbling relationship finally became undeniable. I couldn't believe Jonathan thought he could just kick me out of the home I was paying for $3,200 a month, every single month. Did he even remember that? I gave him a skeptical look, but he just snapped, "Just leave already. My parents can't move in if you're still here." His words didn't make any sense. "Why do I have to leave? I don't understand," I said, trying to keep my frustration in check. "Okay, I'll take everything I bought with me," I replied calmly, despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. Jonathan, impatient, waved me off. "Hurry up, then," he muttered as he walked away. Wasting no time, I contacted a local buyback service. The next day, they arrived at our apartment. Jonathan watched with a smirk, thinking I was just packing up to leave. His smugness quickly evaporated when the workers began evaluating all our furniture and appliances, everything except for the items in his room. Once the staff finished, they handed me a quote. "The total value is $299,000, the worker said. "Okay, sell it all," I replied without hesitation. Jonathan's shock was instant. He grabbed my arm, his voice panicked. "Why are you selling everything? My parents are going to live here. How can they without any furniture?" I pulled my arm free and looked him dead in the eye. "What do you mean? When we got married, you told me you were broke because of your acting classes. You asked me to handle the rent, the furniture, and all our living expenses. Now, with your parents moving in, you can cover the $3,200 a month yourself, right?" Jonathan went pale as reality hit him. Desperate to save face, he tried to regain his composure. You think talking about money will stop the divorce? Who do you think you are? He sneered. I've already gotten close to a rich lady, he added, striking a ridiculous pose. His words made my blood boil, but I stayed calm, remembering how Jonathan had been stalking Laura recently. If that was his idea of getting close, his perception of relationships was more twisted than I thought. Laura, who came from a wealthy family, her grandfather a successful businessman, and her father his successor, never flaunted her money. She lived just like the rest of us, modest and down to earth. Jonathan, however, must have found out about Laura's background and saw her as a ticket to the life he wanted. It infuriated me that he thought wealth made someone more desirable, but I knew the truth. Laura would never be interested in him. She had been with her high school boyfriend for years and he was returning soon with plans to marry her. Jonathan's delusions would crumble soon enough, and I wasn't going to be around to witness the fallout. When I mentioned that Laura felt uneasy because someone had been stalking her, Jonathan was taken aback. He was shocked to hear that Laura found him creepy and that they weren't as close as he believed. I always walked Laura home, he protested defensively. You're lucky I didn't call the police, I shot back, my tongue sharp. But I didn't know she had a boyfriend. He's been away. She picked me over someone she doesn't know, Jonathan insisted, trying to justify his misunderstanding of their relationship. They'd been writing letters since they were kids and talk almost every day. Unlike you, who only has part-time jobs, her boyfriend is successful. Even her dad likes him, I pointed out. Jonathan's expression turned profoundly sad as the reality of the situation sank in. It was clear that his fantasies about forming a relationship with Laura were just that, delusions. As the movers arrived to take our belongings, Jonathan seemed somewhat relieved. I guess you're all I've got now. You'll always support my dream of becoming a voiceover artist, won't you? He asked, attempting to appear unfazed. I met his gaze with steely determination. Sorry, but I've already begun divorce proceedings. From now on, we should communicate through our lawyers, I said coldly. Thinking I still had feelings for him, Jonathan clung to me. Don't say that. Haven't we been getting along all this time? We've been getting along ever since you discovered that my best friend, Laura, is wealthy. You've become distant and started spending time with her right after our wedding. I realize now that I made a mistake, I continued, my voice steady. Jonathan broke down in tears, and despite being older, his childish weeping only made him less endearing to me. I could no longer bear to be near him. Enough, I snapped. I've also informed your Uncle Uncle about the divorce. You know he's a tough man. Well, he's decided to work for him, which means I can no longer support your voiceover dreams. You barely practice as it is. It might be time to accept reality and stay away from Laura. If you don't, I'll call the police. With those final words, I left, determined not to look back. For now, I would stay with my parents, though I considered moving closer to my workplace if I found a suitable place. Meanwhile, as expected, Jonathan ended up working for his uncle, and his parents, who had plans to rely on him financially after his marriage to Laura, also moved in with him, all of them now working for his uncle. It seemed that exploiting others was a family trait. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I escaped that toxic environment. Age wasn't the significant factor. I vowed to be more cautious in choosing my next partner. On a happier note, after settling things with Jonathan, Laura invited me to her wedding. She introduced me to her long-term boyfriend, and I genuinely wished them both happiness.